Hello, friends, and welcome back to this week's episode of Like Anime. My name is George, and with me, as always, is Tony.
Hello, did you miss us because we didn't do an episode on Friday?
We're back.
Happy Memorial Day weekend. I hope
Yes,
you're having fun doing whatever you're doing with the days off that you may or may not have. I have a couple days off, so I'm very excited um,
I
to
do as well.
to watch anime and read manga and light novels and sleep more.
I'm going to watch some anime on the rim of the Grand Canyon.
Ooh,
It's epic.
that is.
I should be watching,
Wait, are you going to project it onto the rim of the Grand Canyon? Because that would be that would
that.
be epic.
That would be cool. That would be cool. I should be watching, what's that show where they descend into the pit? Can't remember what it's called now.
um,
Uh,
Abyss.
Yeah,
Something
Made
Abyss.
Made in
Made in
Abyss. Yes,
Abyss. Yeah.
that's what I should. That'd be appropriate to watch, but we're
Yeah.
still waiting on a second season for that. So
Yeah, I'll just rewatch the first season.
yeah, like I don't have time
Or
for that, but
the movies. Aren't there like 2 or 3 movies out now?
I
I don't
think like
remember.
recap movies or something.
Yeah. I thought there
Um,
was one that was. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember.
well, speaking of anime, what a segue.
Speaking of anime on this anime podcast, let's talk about anime on this anime podcast.
That's right.
What anime should we talk about on this anime podcast?
Well, we around here on Sundays we like to start with a little show called Odd Taxi.
I mean, we could start with that, but that's boring. That's old hat. We've been doing that forever. Let's start with Pokemon the series. Have you been watching that?
Indigo League.
Sure. You want to talk about that? Are you all caught up on Indigo League?
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
Hmm.
good.
Yeah. The inner child in me is squeeing, as they say.
Well, I'm not caught up, so no spoilers, please.
Ash doesn't age, so spoiler for you.
Yeah.
Yes, Odd Taxi. So we got a housekeeping. I was wrong last week.
Mm.
Tony called me out on it on our YouTube. But yeah, we were introduced to a new character that we had heard about.
I'd heard the name before, I think.
Yeah, but I got the name wrong. I thought, well, essentially, Odo, main character Odokawa, had was talking to Little Daimon, the younger, well, I guess they're twins, but
Yeah,
the
Little Daimon. He's the younger of the twins.
yeah, the slightly younger twin
Yeah.
cop, and he was essentially trying to convince him of his brother having sinister dealings with these
Mhm.
gang members.
Yeah.
One of them being Dobu, and Dobu's rival, who they work for the same person, but I guess
Mm.
they are rivals nonetheless, is this character named Yano,
Hmm.
who is in actuality, is the rapping hedgehog.
The rapping
He
hedgehog.
speaks only in rhyme, to a beat that's
Yeah,
in his
the
head.
beat always just sort of comes in the
Yeah, which is a quirk that was
not like a My Hero Academia quirk.
no,
but
yeah, like an actual quirk. It was an aspect to his character that I liked at first, but like in this episode, he just keeps doing it. So it's like it's kind of a hurdle to to get past.
Well, and it's very fast, so it's
Mm,
reading subtitles and trying to sync them up with the rhythm of what he's saying.
yeah,
Somewhat difficult. Yeah.
and then I always get caught on like listening for the what rhymes too, and it's
Oh,
distracting.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I thought last week I had done a quick Google image search and thought that Yano was actually a character that's truly named Yamamoto, who is the Mystery Kiss manager.
Yeah, the dog guy.
Um, but I wasn't too far off because Yamamoto, as was hinted at, he Mystery Kiss and that whole operation just seems to be fodder. One rung on the ladder of whatever this these mobsters are up to. Because there's one. I guess we'll get to it, but there's one scene in here where it just pretty openly shows that the mystery kiss is not much consequence.
Mm.
They're not too concerned with it. It seems.
But yeah, I mean, you weren't far off in that Yamamoto works for Yano,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
But they're two different characters.
one
Yeah.
degree of separation.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. And they both start with Y. Those are my
yeah.
excuses, but I was still dead wrong.
Mm. So yeah, I remember it did throw me off a little bit last week when you said that because that was not how I had it in my brain.
You had it right.
But it didn't like, I guess it didn't super affect anything plot wise. It was just like, really, is that right? That doesn't, I don't know. Anyway,
Mm.
doesn't matter. We can move on.
It was easily made apparent in this episode that that was not the
Yes,
case.
yeah. We apologize to our listeners if you, like me, were confused. Um,
Yes, I'm sorry.
if that's the case, well, at least you're up to speed now, and we can get into this episode.
Yes.
So, yeah, Odo and Dobu talk about stuff. That's the first note I have.
Yeah,
Is that the first thing that happens?
Oh yeah, because and this is why the that whole thing we were just talking about was cleared up pretty quickly. Is that they're I forget what they're talking about. I mean, they're just talking about their what they got going on, but then Adobu's like getting out of the cab, to part ways, and then Yamamoto, the Mystery Kiss manager, calls,
calls.
and you see his name on the
On
call
the phone,
ID,
yeah.
Fuyuki Yamamoto. I will not forget his name.
You'll never forget his name now.
I actually had to rewind it too and like paused it so I could just be like, all right, and like commit that to memory.
Is that the point that you realize that you like at that point?
Oh, yeah,
Did you realize?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like. I remember seeing that, and I don't even really remember reading his name on it.
Mm.
And then they said it was like that's the guy that wanted the thing.
Yeah.
I didn't rewind or anything to confirm the name or anything. It wasn't until later that I realized.
Oh, okay, with Yano probably.
Yeah, where Yamamoto is saying, "Where's Yano?" And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Wait, this doesn't make sense."
George. Yeah. So that's when I caught on to it. And so Dobu, like he calls and Dobu's like about to get out of the cab, but then he's like, "Oh, hold on, I want to listen in on this." And so Yamamoto is the guy previously that had asked to get Odo's SD card for his
the footage from his cab rides.
Yeah. And so Yamamoto's just calling to get a ride, and Odo assumes it's to also to ask for the ask again about that.
Right.
And so Dobu is like, all right, he has a few ideas that are shot down. He's like, all right, tell him you'll sell it to him for a million yen,
a billion
or a billion yen. Was it a billion?
Yeah, billion.
It's just like, yeah, ridiculous. And so yeah, then they part ways, and then he goes and picks up Yamamoto, who has the calico cat with him, whose name I do have. Her name is Ichimura.
Yes.
And she,
which Kakihana screamed several times, but
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
later in the episode.
That's true. And she's the one, that we learn has been duping Kakihana, been catfishing him, in a sense. And we were well, I was speculating last week if his the loan sharks that he was getting all this money from were connected to these gangsters, and they're not. They thought they were gonna like rob him and like pull a fast one on him, but then they quickly realized that
he's broke his shit.
Yeah, he's got nothing. And I guess we'll get back to him.
He's in debt, in fact. So they have that talk, and I guess actually that's the next thing is that the Yakuza realize that Kakihana has no money. And sort of things are revealed there. It might be a little bit later that it's revealed to Kakihana that Calico Cat is involved. Or is knowingly involved in it.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to accept that naturally. But so Odo picks up Yamamoto and Ichimura, and she wants to get out of the pop group, I guess. And so she almost says Yano's name. That's another thing where she was like, "So am I gonna have to talk to that guy?" And Yamamoto's like, "Yes, you're gonna have to talk to him if you want out." And then on the ride, Odo and Yamamoto talk about the SD card.
Right.
And Odo does a good job at because he's spinning a lot of plates all over town. But he does. I thought he did a convincing job of like pretending that there was another offer for 900 million yen. And so he was like, "I'll take 1 billion." But either way, they're both large sums of money. But clearly he's bluffing. But Yamamoto buys it for the time being. But yeah, and then we get to
Does he agree to buy it?
well, no, he doesn't agree to it. Sorry, I should
He he.
he accepts
Oh,
the
premise.
premise of it,
Okay,
yeah.
right. Okay.
And I think, and that ties back to something we'll get to later of a certain character who won 1 billion yen.
Yep. Yeah, that's later that comes up.
Yeah,
I guess. And then is there? I'm trying to remember what the next thing is. I think my notes are slightly out of order here.
mine are too.
I remember that there's another conversation that Odo and Dobu have, but I don't know if that's the next thing or if we go to Goriki next.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is Goriki.
Okay.
Um, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so Goriki is talking with Shirakawa and kind of talking about Odo's condition that they haven't really defined or anything,
yeah,
which just seems that he has an amazing recall of people's faces, I guess.
yeah.
Um,
And there was one scene in maybe last week's episode where there was like a CT scan of a CAT scan of his
mhm,
brain. So seemingly something they haven't elaborated on that, but seemingly something that produced some results.
mhm.
But yeah, then they're talking about his quirk, or I keep using quirk, but his
I mean, in this sense, this is almost a My Hero
yeah,
Academia quirk, you know.
that's true. Yeah,
Um, but yeah, his ability to recognize faces, like Goriki sends him a picture and says, "Hey, do you know who this is?" And I mean, we clearly recognize
yeah.
who it is. It's Kakihana. And Odo also does. So I don't understand why other people don't.
He's
But
got that distinct like
very distinct
flip
to
hair
us. But
flip on his
but we
head.
don't know everyone in the world, I guess. So there
Yeah,
may be lots of people that have that same thing. But anyway, Odo immediately knows that it's Kakihana, and
and it is like a
Goriki is
silhouette too, so it's
yeah,
not
yeah, yeah. And so Gariki's like, oh, see, it's very, I don't know, it's like a synesthesia,
yes, that's
is what
his
he compares it to.
his hypothesis. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know why would you want to cure him of that? Like that just seems like a useful skill.
I
But
know. Or like, is there something deeper going on that like Gariki's trying to connect this because he has a motive, or
it's
is I
it
don't know.
sort of seems that way. Like I mean, we hear a little bit more about Odo's past and how messed up and sort of tragic it's been.
Yeah. So
Um,
he kind of raised himself. There's something like his parents died when he was young, and he got like a
one of his parents
stipend.
died, one of them left or something like that, and yeah, he ended up as sort of a ward of the state. And
Mm.
we've talked about this in Super Cub. It's
I
kind
know.
of
I was just
relating back
thinking
to
of
that
that.
as well. Yeah. Um, oh, I did. No, won't say it. I read some manga spoilers on Super Cub, so I actually know what that situation's about. But we don't need
You,
we don't need to talk about it in this episode.
you scallywag. Um,
Um,
but then well, just to comment briefly, I love Shirakawa. It was very nice
mhm,
to see her. She's great.
yeah,
But then, like at the end of the scene, Gariki's like, "Well, I'm gonna go meet, Odo at the bar that they go
yeah,
to have a drink and to elaborate on this theory he has."
and
And he,
test it maybe even. Yeah,
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 and then he invites Shirakawa, and it all checks out, but she's like, I think he'll leave if I go.
yeah.
But you can tell that like she would like to go
Oh
and
yeah.
wants to see him. But I don't know. I'm just curious what her role will be here on out, because I want her to have more screen time, but I'm kind of questioning like I'm sure she'll play some part, but
I don't.
um,
I'm not 100% sure that her characterization that he would leave if she showed up was accurate. I think Odo likes her.
mhm.
And I don't know, maybe somehow they're going to work through the difficulties that they've gone through thus far.
Yeah.
At least I sort of hope so for both their sakes, honestly, you know?
Yeah. No, I
So,
hope so too.
yeah, so I don't know. I think she is going to play a larger part later. Like she seems to have been cleared of all the underworld stuff that's been going on.
Yeah. Much
Um,
thanks to Odo.
yes, and yeah, now I guess the only part she really has to play is as Odo's love interest and her interest in Odo as well,
Yeah.
which seems genuine, but Odo's less sure of that. So maybe it's a matter of helping Odo recognize his own lack of self-confidence because he's been abandoned by his parents. He has a sort of abandonment complex or whatever.
That's true.
And then she can maybe convince him that she's authentic in her, or her feelings are authentic or
Yeah.
something. I don't know. I mean, it's certainly all speculation at this point on
A-
that, but
And I'm sure that I completely agree with everything you're saying. And it got me thinking too. Like it all adds up, like character wise. That now knowing his sort of tragic backstory,
mm,
that he would push her away, even though he
yeah,
does like her, and considering that she was initially like trying to bamboozle him, like she was not. She came clean that she wasn't, genuine from the start, but
mm,
then that she, garnered feelings for him.
yes,
But it makes sense that he would reject that, just from his own self worth and low self
right,
esteem, I imagine.
yeah,
But I imagine that, like, because he is increasingly getting more and more dragged into all this seedy stuff that's going on, that even though he has a deal with Dobu, that she's probably going to be like used as a leverage against him at some point.
probably yes,
Yeah. So
yeah.
which I don't know. I trust this show, but it's a type of thing that could get into cliche, territory.
I mean, to be honest, there's a lot of cliches in this show. If
That's
you
true.
if you really like dig down into it, like, but they're covered well, they're molded well into the fabric of the
Yeah.
story,
Yeah. There's
and
so many wrinkles that you don't focus on just one thing being kind of, played out or
right,
obvious.
and yeah, so I trust the writers in that regard to smooth over the rough edges of
Mm.
making that work.
Mm.
They've done well so far in doing that, making things work that are, honestly very cliched. And this
Yeah.
is also, as you say, a very cliched thing to do, but I
Mm.
think they can smooth it over. So
Yeah, I think so too. I'm not worried at all, but I'm just so excited, I guess, to see. But anyway, let's carry on with this episode.
yeah, so Gariki conversation, and then I guess then we get back to Odo and Dobu talking about Dobu's plans, or are we
I
Hippo
think that's
Boy next?
Yeah, I think we go to Kakihana a little bit more.
Oh, we go back to Kakihana for a
Yeah,
bit.
because I don't think I mean, unless I'm remembering wrong, but
There's
I feel
so
like
much. There's so much jumping around and like stuff in this episode. Like I write my
yeah.
notes after the end of the episode, not during the
Mm.
episode, because I don't want to be distracted. So yeah,
Yeah,
trying
I do too.
like I remember everything that happens in this episode, but the order in which they happen is not necessarily easy to recall.
Same. But I'm pretty sure. I mean, I was wrong last week about something, but I'm pretty sure that once he drops off Yamamoto and Ichimura
Mm.
at the place where Yano and Kakihana is like tied up, not that Odo sees that, but he drops him off near there.
Yeah.
That's when he gets the call or text from Goriki, and so then
Mhm.
he goes to the bar,
Okay, that's
and so then we have
immediately
that
after.
we have
Okay.
that scene. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So we have the scene at the bar with Gariki and Odo, and Gariki's sort of quizzing Odo on his ability, not directly indicating anything, just sort of showing him things and saying, "Hey, do you know what this is? Hey, do you know what this is?" And the bar matron
Mm.
is also sort of playing along, like, "Oh, that's a bird. I know what that is. Everyone knows what that is," or something like
Like,
that.
are you
But,
serious?
yeah, it seems like a very strange quiz, but
Yeah, like it seemed like
anyway.
he was trying to be sly and casual about it, but just seemed obvious that something was afoot. Um,
Yeah.
like it seemed like it was intentionally that way, but Odo just seemed to be like, oh, whatever. He got too much else on his mind, I think, to really catch.
Well,
Like,
look, I've got this character sheet here, George. Let me. Can you name that? I'm just kidding.
son of a gun. Um,
Who did I? Oh, I pointed to Dobu.
oh.
It wasn't even a hard one. Would have been really funny if I accidentally pointed to Yano though. But
Very
anyway,
great.
or Yamamoto. Is that it?
That's the
dog's name?
manager.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I think there's that scene in the bar, and then I think they cut back to Kakihana and all them a couple times. So I
Mm.
can't remember exactly how that plays out, but there's a scene shortly after that that I thought was it could have been played like a little darker, but I just thought the whole conceit of it was like pretty dark. Where Yano, well, Yamamoto gets there and he's talking to some of the henchmen,
Yeah.
and he hasn't got to talk to Yano yet. But he's kind of like um, hinting at somebody wanted that about the SD card, and then there's a whole thing with Ichimura wanting to leave, and so he's kind of talking about those two things. And then Yano kind of comes out and goes directly to Kakihana and like gets his phone, which is kind of laying next to him, and he goes on this whole rapping monologue. But then the thing I thought that I liked, which is pretty sinister, is he calls his mom,
Kakihana's mom.
Kakihana's mom,
phone. Yeah.
and puts her on the line, with the context being like, this is the last time you're going to talk to her. So it's like in one hand it's like a kind gesture, but on the other hand it's like this guy is no good.
Yeah.
And
He seems way worse than Dobu.
yeah.
honestly.
Oh yeah. Dobu like actually seems kind of reasonable. Like
Somewhat. Yeah.
yeah. Like the fact that he's I forget the kid's name, but the hippo kid who's
Yeah. I just call him Hippo Kid.
Yeah.
I've got it right here if you want to know.
yeah, I don't know if I'll remember it. But he like Dobu's reaction to all that is just kind of like shaking his head and be like, oh god, what he's concerned about that, about this young kid who's outing him.
This young kid being Taichi Kabasawa.
Kabasawa. Okay.
Kabasawa. I believe that's what it says. Kabasawa. Yeah. Taichi Kabasawa.
And we see a little of him. We see another one of his videos.
Yeah, I have that somewhere in here as well. That's actually the next thing I have after this. Yeah. Yeah, he publishes another video. Well, he publishes the video which shows the events of Halloween and him talking about
Yes.
that.
And then I guess he didn't see Odo, but
No.
he heard Odo like said his name.
Right.
And so
warned Dobu and knew his name, right?
Yeah, and he's like, but I was wearing this clown mask. How
So
could
no one
he
could have
know?"
recognized me.
Preposterous. But I guess suppose it ties into this ability that
Mhm.
Odo has.
And then, well, of course, what was the name again? Kabasawa. Kabasawa says, so it has to be someone that was, in our inner circle of people that were trying to help find Dobu or whatever. Because how else would someone have recognized, he knows it's someone that knows him and knows his name, I guess, basically, right? So it has to be someone close
connected
to him in some way or something, right? Yeah.
Oh, and that's the other thing you reminded me. There's like some sort of community that he's established in service of trying to bring Dobu to justice.
Yeah.
And he mentioned there's like a subscription fee to it. I'm like,
Yeah.
dang, this kid is
It's like $100 a month. $100 a month.
It's quite the enterprising young lad.
Yeah. And what else was okay? So then, are we at the point where Odo and
Yes.
Dobu are and Odo's recording Dobu secretively?
Yeah, which seemed like obvious to me, but Dobu didn't catch on to it.
Dobu's not super smart.
Yeah. He's I kind of feel bad for him at this point.
Yeah. But yeah, Odokawa is asking Dobu some very sort of pointed questions about what his plan is and how everything's going to go down. And then he starts recording him. And at some point, Dobu does say,
Yeah, after he's already
your questions
implicated.
seem pretty pointed here. He's like, no, I just want to be 100% clear. Odo says,
Yeah,
I just want to be 100% clear on, what we're doing,
yeah.
what my part in it is, what your part in it is. I don't want there to be any miscommunication here. So just lay it all out. Tell me everything, Dobu. And so Dobu does. And Odo records all of it.
And he continues to lay out, pulling on some threads that were established earlier on. He lays out his plan to rob a bank in quotation marks, which really means robbing this kid, Imai. I wrote down his name. I'm pretty sure that's his name.
Tanaka, right?
Tanaka. No, not Tanaka. Imai, the big fan of Mystery Kiss.
Right. Tanaka is the one who's hunting Odo, basically,
Yeah.
right?
Which where the heck is he? Like we haven't seen him in a couple episodes, but
Tinai, you say.
Imai.
Imai. you say.
Imai.
Oh yeah, Shun Imai.
Imai, okay. I got
Shun,
that right.
the same as the guy in Spider. Shun.
Oh, okay, Shun.
Yeah, Imai. Yeah, his last name. Okay. Anyway.
I'll go with Imai
All
because
right.
that's what I have written down.
All right.
But yeah, he's the kid who won the lottery. He won 1 billion yen,
Yep.
and he stupidly shared that on the internet,
Yep.
which I think we both remarked was dumb at the time.
Hmm.
But he's
As did Odo, I
yes,
think.
yes, yeah. Everyone everyone thought it was dumb. Um, but then it cleared up a concern I had, which I was like, he posted that picture with the actual like winning lottery ticket. So I was
Mm.
like, oh shoot, can someone just like steal that from him from that? But I guess not. He's he's the one that has to get it. But now everyone knows about it, and so Dobu came up with the $1 billion price for the SD card in hopes that it would throw off Yano and his crew as to who had made an offer on the SD card, right? I mean, that's what I gathered from it.
I thought it was sort of a setup orchestrated by Dobu. That whole million yen price was because Dobu knew that Yano was planning to rob Imai um, of his billion yen anyway.
Yes, yeah. Um, but I think, Dobu's also planning to do that. But I think he had like assumed
Well,
that.
Dobu was planning to rob the robbers, I think, or something. I don't know. Yeah, it's a bit convoluted, but
Yeah. So it's hard to put a pin on it, for sure. But it's something along those lines where it's like they wanted to use this kid not only to rob him, but to also kind of with that number of that round number,
yeah.
um, throw them off somewhat.
What was it? I guess Dobu's plan was if they managed to rob the kid, that he would then rob them.
Hmm.
But if they didn't, then maybe they would find a different way to come up with a billion yen, which then Dobu would get from Otokawa. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we might have to rewatch that
again,
scene, but
somewhat
yeah,
convoluted, I think.
yeah,
But yeah. Anyway, Odo warns Imai that he is in danger and sort of lays out some ideas for trying to get him out of danger, like editing the picture of the lottery ticket and
mm,
saying, "Aha, it was just a joke. I edited the original picture to make you all think that I won," and
mm.
to change his plans. His plan is to cash in the ticket on Christmas Day, I guess, or around Christmas sometime, because
Yeah,
that's when the new Mystery Kiss album comes out, and he wants to buy 300,000 copies of it,
yeah, which
something
is
like that.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, so Odo asks him to like hold off on that,
yeah.
and kind of explains briefly what's uh you know what danger he's in. And then I forget, like, oh yeah, that's what it was. He uses Imai uses a turn of phrase that Kakihana had used when he was showing Odo the dating profile for Ichimura,
Mm,
before he uh, had gone on a date with her. And
yeah.
also in this episode, Odo has learned that he is missing. Kakihana
Yeah, yeah.
is officially.
Kakihana's been missing for a couple days or something like that, or no one's seen him in a long time. Or
Yeah, and yeah, people are starting to get worried. But yeah, at the very end of this episode, I forget what the turn of phrase was. It was like something about spring, like the spring is on the horizon or something like that.
something like that. Yeah.
And so Odo like slams on the brakes when he says it, and he's like, repeat that, and he keeps repeating
Yeah.
the
The
wrong
wrong
thing.
part. Yeah. Little joke
um,
there. Yeah.
but he finally says it, and then I just liked my alliteration. I wrote down it triggers the Calico Cat connection.
Mm,
But
yes. Well, because earlier when he picked up the Calico Cat
mhm,
and Yamamoto,
mhm.
um, he sort of comments to himself yet again, like,
Yeah,
she seems
it's
familiar or
familiar.
something, right?
Yeah.
This Calico Cat, which he had said before in previous episodes as well, when he had picked her up. So yeah, he finally makes that connection. Like, oh, that's the girl that Kakihana is
Yeah.
going on a date with.
And now that he knows, I don't know if he quite knows that Yamamoto works for Yano and all that, but I
I
think
don't know
there's an
either.
inkling there where he's like something's not right. Like, there's I'm now like genuinely worried about Kakihana. Like, I think is the
Right.
the tone of it.
Well, I mean, just even that merely that connection that the girl that Kakihana was dating is this girl from Mystery Kiss
Yeah.
is probably enough for Odo to think there's something up with that. Like
Yeah.
that's
That's
why
yeah.
would this girl, this famous air
Yeah.
quotes girl,
Yeah.
um,
In her, cute and in her, idle prime.
right?
Yeah.
Why would she be dating my loser friend? Eh,
And that's exactly what Kakihana told him when, Shirakawa was, seemingly into him, which was kind of funny. But then I wonder too about I mean, I guess like cuz Odokawa, like we were talking about, has this something, this ability,
mm,
whether it's synesthesia or not. But he has this ability with faces.
yeah.
And so he saw a picture of this girl on, Kakihana's phone, and then he's seen her in person in his cab.
Well, he had said at some point, like when talking about this ability to recognize, there has to be something memorable about them. They have to
Oh, yeah.
stand out or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And I have my suspicion from very early on
Hmm.
is that the Calico Cat is a replacement for a different Calico Cat who was the Yakuza boss's daughter who has gone
Oh,
missing, who is living in Odo's closet. And so maybe the fact that they look so similar has confused him or something, but
okay.
that's just my own
Interesting. I
personal
like that.
theory.
I
But
like that.
yeah, not 100% sure on why he didn't, recognize her. I mean, she didn't make an impression, I guess. Like
I suppose.
she was very standoffish, and
Yeah.
not that they had a conversation exactly, but in all of their interactions, she was very just sort of meh.
That's true. She's kind of quiet and just on her phone a lot. And
Yeah,
so yeah, that's
busy catfishing Kakihana,
yeah. And who knows how many others she's got on the line.
right?
Um, but yeah, geez Louise, this show. I mean, I love
Mm.
it, but it's like talking about it is kind of screwy.
Yeah, well, we've gotten to the point where all like we keep talking about these threads, these intertwined threads, and how they're starting to sort of unfurl. And now we're at the point where they've all like separated so much
Yeah.
that like the points don't exactly relate to each other. So you kind of have to go over every little bit of it,
Yeah.
and then they're all going to start coming back together. But yeah, we're at the widest part of the fray, I suppose.
Yeah. I think that's spot on. I'm loving it. I'm just
Oh yeah,
I'm cruising at
great
an
show.
8. Just because it's so consistently good. But depending
Yeah.
on how it ends, like,
Yeah, I mean they could ruin it for sure, but
yeah, or
I don't.
elevate it, or just stick the landing, like.
Yeah, I mean if they stick the landing, I think they're still. I don't know. They'd have to stick it really good to be above an 8, but yeah. Ah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's Odd Taxi episode 8.
30 minutes later.
I know it's so much, so much.
But it's good. It's good.
Um,
I
it's funny because like my notes are so very short for this. Like it's like maybe a fifth of a page, but there's
yeah.
each of those notes contains really just like an ort of information that relates to all of the stuff going on around it, which is so much more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I could have easily written 2 pages if I were to really write out all my thoughts and everything on
Mhm.
this. But
I guess the only thing we didn't add is that Kakihana is now a puppet or a pawn. He's they're holding on to him,
yeah,
and while beating the crap out of him.
mm,
But yeah, they intend on using him as leverage at some point. So I don't know.
yeah. Do
But he's
they?
not dead.
But they don't know of his relationship with Odo yet,
I
so they
don't.
don't necessarily know why they're holding on to him. But
Yeah.
uh, I mean, that's obviously the leverage they're going to use him for
Yeah.
in the future.
Yeah.
But they don't even know that yet. So I don't
Yeah.
know. It's I don't know. Yeah,
It's interesting.
it's a little odd, like
Taxi.
why they chose to make that.
Yeah, I can't remember specifically why
Mm,
they did or why Yano did that. But
yeah,
it's I mean, once the show is done, or even when the season's done, I don't know how long the show will be, but definitely gonna have to rewatch it. Like for me anyway. Like there's just all those threads. Like
yeah.
I'm sure there's stuff I've missed even still. So anyway,
Anyway, what time is it, George? I'll tell you what time it is. It's time for me to get a beer and for you to talk about Megalobox 2 Nomad.
that's rude.
I'll be listening from the kitchen as I get my beer.
Megalobox. So I'm gonna keep it short this week. Last week, it's still great. But last week we ended with the big match between Lou, the new up and comer who won the last Megalobox or Megalonia as they call it, and also beat Joe in the process when he was not in his prime. But he's Lou is facing against Mac, and he's the one that has had these the gears have been, that technology has been used as a medical device, and he became paralyzed while on duty as a cop, and was rehabilitated with these gears, and so now he's boxing again. And we have this sort of CEO tech type, a la a Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, who is, spearheading not only the development of this medical gear technology, but is putting Mac on a pedestal. It's a very emblematic for him to win. And it kind of it's good publicity for the this medical technology that he's trying to sell. So that we have this match, and it was established with this Mac guy because he used to box back in the day, and then he became a cop. But like when he used to box, he would kind of he would go too hard, too fast. He would just get it would get the best of him, and it was kind of his downfall. And they would call it Mac time, I guess, when he would just start pummeling away.
I don't. Sorry to interrupt. I don't remember this cop thing. Was this?
Oh, really?
Did you mention that before?
Much like this week's episode of Odd Taxi, last week's episode of Megalobox had a lot going on.
Okay.
And it was really good. But yes, we did not know of this character Mac before, but they set up not only his backstory, but the backstory of the CEO tech guy who is spearheading this technology.
I do remember you mentioning the Steve Jobs character.
Okay, yeah,
and I do remember Mac as well. I remember the name Mac and this medical device thing and everything. I just didn't remember that he was a cop.
Yes, and I might have glazed over the fact that he was a boxer before that, even. But yeah, so he was a boxer, and he did okay, but he never got that high up in the rankings due to his this Mac time thing, which he would just he didn't have the he was young, and he was he would just impulsive, he would just go for it,
just go all out and spend himself basically.
Yeah. But I guess they called it Mac time when he would do that, and that's important. It plays into this episode. But he eventually retired from boxing, became a cop, and he excelled at that. He became like sort of a local hero. Saved a lot of people. And in one of those instances, when he's trying to save someone, a stray bullet like hit his spine and became paralyzed, and so. That's why this gear technology rehabilitated him. He got back into boxing, and he's like better than he ever was because he's older, he's more mature, and he's gone through all this, and so he's able to sort of pace himself, and he's kicking butt doing that. But anyway, so with this match, the match starts, and we have Gearless Joe, our main character, in the audience, sitting with two of the kids, not Sachio, but two of the other kids.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so they're all watching, and it was kind of cool because like we haven't seen a big match like this in a while, and especially one that relates to Megalonia, the big boxing tournament.
Yeah,
and that's what I kind of like about this season, where it's completely maybe not subverting. I mean, I guess it is subverting, but it's like it's not. It's important, but it's not important in the way that those matches were in the first season. So it takes on a whole new feel because
they don't carry the same. Not that they don't carry the same weight, but the weight that they carry is a different kind of weight.
Yeah. And we're not like the way we're invested is much different, and it's got this like nuance to it that's kind of interesting, especially with having these these sort of newly introduced characters. But the way to sum this up, the way it plays out is Mac kind of has the upper hand in the first round, and then in the second round, Lou kind of catches on to his movements and his flow and starts to get an edge on him. And then Mac kind of goes into this Mac time thing, right? And so he wins. He pummels him within an inch of his life, and he wins the tournament. So it's like, yay, he won, or what, for this tech guy is all excited. Um,
So Mac time worked out this time.
it did, but then there are repercussions to that.
Mm.
And that's what's so interesting. Like the Lou, the guy that lost, who beat Gearless Joe, and is trained by the guy that Joe initially in the first season was his main rival in the final match of that tournament.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on here. But so Lou is like in critical care. He's in the ICU. He's like, we're not sure if he's gonna live. And they're all kind of by his bedside, and like Joe and his trainer, whose name I'm forgetting. Um, um, but yeah, so they're all there and they're kind of rooting for him. But then with Mac, he kind of he won, and so he's victorious, and he didn't really, he had some bruises and stuff, but he wasn't too banged up. And he goes back home. He's got a wife and a young son, and they're all, he's playing with his boy and stuff. And then something happens where something clicks in him, and you kind of see him become like animalistic. He's like he like knocks his son's food out of his hand, is like eating it off the ground and like
Yeah.
scaring his family. And
It's Mac time.
yeah, so we learn that is a negative repercussion of these gears that he has.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and so the wife goes to the CEO tech guy, and is kind of pleading with him, like just reaching out to him, being like, can you help us? And he just he gives her lip service, and he's essentially like, he says something so like so messed up, where he's like, that's, I think it's a wife's duty to be, to take care of her husband, in his time of need. And then he kind of sends her away, being like, if it gets worse, let me know. But then, at the end of the episode, they show him like he's just listening to headphones and like dancing, like, careless, carefree, like he could care, like he couldn't care less. So it's kind of a messed up, I don't know, a darker edge to what's going on with that. And I'm very curious, what's going to go on with this Mac character, or how it's going to progress from here. But that was essentially.
Is he? So he's sort of represented as the big bad, or?
I mean, not really, because like at the end of the episode, it's like you just feel bad for him, like he's going to be like a threat to his family. And I don't know, like
He's like maybe the underling sort of the big bad, who is like the medical company who
Oh
is
yes.
ultimately needs to be
Yeah.
defeated, I guess, right?
Yeah, the
That's-
medical. Yeah, that
yeah, so he's not the actual big bad.
yeah,
Okay.
I think so. Although maybe he will be used in that way. Like maybe he will just become, go into full Mac time and just be like a beast, and be used in that way. There was one interesting thing at the end of last week's episode that they touched on in the beginning of this one, where as they were introducing the fighters for the tournament, they bring out Mac first, and as he's walking out, he locks eyes with Joe and kind of has like a slight smile, of like not like a huge smile, but like a knowing grin of
Some
something.
sort of recognition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the beginning of this episode, one of the kids is like, "Oh, what's that? Do you know him?" He's like, "I've never seen him in my life." So it's kind of interesting. I mean, I'm sure he knows who Gearless Joe is, because he won the, was a winner of the Megalonia tournament. But
Spoilers.
oh yes, yeah,
It's
like
fine,
you,
It's fine.
like I know. I was trying to last week. I was trying to like keep that mysterious, but
It was assumed anyway. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
but anyway, I'm very I don't know where we go from here, given what's happened. Joe is still going to continue on his journey with trying to reach out to Sachio and and whatnot. So I don't know if it's going to end up with like this. The company is called Roscoe. This with that tech guy. So I don't know if Roscoe is going to produce like a younger fighter to represent them next, and then like maybe Sachio and Joe somehow make amends, and then Joe's like training Sachio to beat this guy. I'm just spitballing here, because I mean it's a boxing show, but
yeah. I mean that sort of is what I've been thinking or assuming from since Joe went back and this whole situation with Sachio is, yeah, they're going to have to repair that. Joe's going to train Sachio.
Yeah,
Sachio is going to be the supreme victor of this season. But, I mean, it could go any which way, really.
that's true. And I wouldn't be too surprised if it had a darker ending. Like
Mm,
given the show so far, not that it's just been, endlessly like horrific or anything or downtrodden, but I don't know, it has like a slightly different feel to it than the first one.
mm.
Um but I would be a little surprised, I suppose, but anyway.
Minor clarification on the timeline thing. You said that, all right, so Mac was a fighter first and then
Yes.
became a cop.
Yes.
But when he was a fighter before, he did the Mac time thing, right?
Yeah.
But now they're saying that this Mac time thing is related to the medical gear, which he didn't receive until after his injury as a cop.
Well,
Or,
I think what's happening now is just mistaken as Mac time. It's like him going berserk,
oh, okay.
but like instead of him like kind of just being over eager and impulsive, it's more his brain like kind of just switching
I
to
see.
like
So
a more reptilian or something like that. Like
okay. That makes more sense. So it's two different things. It was Mac time was before when he was young and stupid
yeah,
and would spend himself and lose the match because he, went all out. Um, and now that he's fighting again, they're associating those two things, but
yeah.
the cause is different this time. Okay,
And
that,
so
that makes more sense.
when he started getting the upper hand at the end of the fight, and inevitably winning, the crowd was like cheering Mac time. It was it was like like triumphant thing of they were all excited, but little did we know it was much darker than
Yeah.
that.
Okay. All right. I see now.
Mm.
That was the part that I didn't connect was that
Oh, okay, yeah. Like why would
it wasn't actually. I mean, before Mac time was one thing, and now
mm,
this thing that's happening isn't Mac time as it was before, but a different thing that looks similar to
yeah.
onlookers. Okay.
Yeah, which is I totally see
And
how
we're
that was
but
confusing.
we're pretty confident that it is related to the medical gear that's causing that. It's not just
Yeah.
something inherent in his character or personality.
Yeah, they were definitely driving home the point that
Okay.
they're connected and that this what's his name? I have it written down here. Ryugo Sakama, the CEO of Roscoe, is just paying lip service and is not really concerned with Mac
Mm.
now. Like he served his purpose essentially.
I see. I'm glad you had that name written down because I've realized that these character sheets that I've printed out with the names of all of the characters from every show only include shows I'm watching. So
Nice.
Megalobox
I'm
didn't
on my own.
didn't make the cut, I guess. I'll try and correct that by next week. But yeah, I guess that probably does it for that episode of Megalobox. Again, sounds great. I wish I was watching it. I actually thought about it this week. I had like a little lull and was gonna sort of pick up season 1 from where I left off.
Mm.
And then I was like, I don't really feel like doing that. So then I just read more of the Spiderlight novel. But,
Nice.
I'm pretty far ahead on the Well, I mean, I'm pretty far along in the Spiderlight novel, and I'm quite far ahead on To Your Eternity, and we'll get to that
Mhm.
later.
Well, no judgment on my part. I get how it is, but I mean, at this point, you might as well wait till since I'm spoiling everything till it's not as fresh in your mind.
I guess maybe, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe if a season
fine.
3 comes out, you're like, all right, now I got to
think-
catch up.
I mean, difference between foreknowledge of something and actual spoilers. I don't feel like I've been spoiled against it because I feel like what's to come
Mm.
is going to be the real spoilers, and that just sort of
Yeah.
makes me want to catch up on it more, right?
Yeah,
I want
I'm
to
kinda hyping
catch
it.
up on it before we get to the actual this is going to spoil the story for you.
yeah.
Because
And there might be a part where I'm like, I don't know if I want to.
yeah, I mean, I think
divulge.
at this point, I don't know. Either I catch up or I don't. Don't let it affect your
Oh, yeah.
coverage of this show. Like, don't
No, you're fine.
don't avoid giving spoilers just because I would rather read about a spider.
Well, fair enough.
Anyway, yeah, I guess next up, I always say that. Like I listen back to these when I'm doing like the time code on YouTube. Next up, I say it so much. I need to find different words for that. Um, dear listener, please help me. I don't have the words. I need different segue words. Please leave it in the comments or tweet us or, wherever. Just let me know something else I can use as a segue instead of saying, next up, we've got Hige Hero. After being rejected, I took in a high school runaway. Um, episode 8, because that's what I always say,
Yeah.
It's boring. I'm tired of hearing it. And it's me that's saying it.
Well, hey, next season we'll start innovating.
All right. Well, if anyone's got any ideas, I would appreciate it. I need to expand my dialogue to something different than just saying the same thing every time. It annoys me, and I'm sure it annoys you, and I'm sorry. Anyway, so yeah, Higehiro, Saya goes out to the grocery store to do some grocery shopping because she realizes she needs some groceries. I said
Is
groceries
this
too many times. It's
this
weird.
is the younger one that's living with?
Sayu's the high school girl. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yep. And she runs into Mishima at the shopping center. Mishima being the younger girl that works with
Okay.
Yamada.
Yeah, not his like boss, but the one that's like
Yeah.
jealous of every other girl
Yeah,
he talks to.
Goto is older
Oh, Goto. Okay.
boss. Mishima is younger jealous girl, and Sayu is high school girl who lives with Yamada.
Okay.
So they sort of run into each other while Sayu's out doing some shopping, and coincidentally, around the same time, or at exactly the same time that they sort of run into each other, Sayu sees her brother, who is searching for her to take her back home, sort of off in the distance or something, and then she sort of hides behind Mishima and sort of explains the situation and says, there's someone following me. You got to get me out of here. So Mishima, takes her to a karaoke place, and they go into one of the private karaoke booths that they have in Japan.
Nice. I want to do that so bad.
Yeah.
But continue.
And Mishima's doing a bunch of karaoke songs, and Sayu's like, yeah, I don't really sing or whatever. Not that that's germane to any of this, but just thought it was worth mentioning. So yeah, they hide out, and they start conversing about things in life and girl stuff, and as you do, and Sayu, being the innocent teenager she is, doesn't realize Mishima is interested in Yamada, but Mishima sort of does her usual thing where she's through the conversation sort of trying to sabotage Yamada's relationship with Sayu. And honestly, at this point, I don't even think it's intentional on her part. I think it's, like maybe her latent jealousy, like she's maybe not even aware of it.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, like, but
little immaturity creeping in there of like
that, or I mean, maybe she's just a bad communicator and she just sort of blurts things out and just says things. I don't know. One of those two things is true. I don't think she's doing it intentionally, but she sucks basically. So, anyway, so then yeah, they have their conversation, and Mishima kind of sucks, and Sayu kind of feels bad about how she's sort of she's interfering in Yamada's life, basically. She's, making his life harder for him by just her presence, essentially. Which is not untrue, but, Mishima's just shitty for saying it.
Yeah, it's not her place to say either.
Yeah. So then, Sayu is wanting to text Yamada to say, oh, she doesn't want him to, like, go home and find the house empty and she's not there and worry about her, basically. So she's trying to think of the words to text him to say, hey, I'm with Mishima at the karaoke place, and she can't find the right words. And so Mishima just sort of texts him and says, hey, Sayu and I are having fun. We're at the karaoke place by the train station. Come by after you get off work or something. So anyway, he does, and then gets there, and like Sayu and Yamada are kind of having their own, conversation as they're leaving, which Mishima is like super jealous of their relationship at that point. Like it sort of rears its ugly head again, that jealousy. Not that she says anything. So this is all just internal in her.
Okay.
It's just sort of, bubbling and brewing and stuff like that. And Anyway, they go home, and then it sort of jumps to there's a Matsuri festival, like a summer festival, Natsu
Mm.
Matsuri, a local festival that's coming up, and Sayu and Yamada decide to go to it together because she's never been to a Matsuri because she was raised in a very closed off sort of household, I guess. So
Mm.
so they go and they have fun, and she has cotton candy for the first time, and
Oh wow.
fun stuff and neat stuff, and they watch fireworks together, and it's all sweet and lovely and
This is
everything.
her and Mishima.
No, her and Yamada,
Oh okay.
Sayu and
Oh
Yamada,
okay, okay,
the
okay.
guy who shaved his beard, the titular guy who shaved his beard, and the titular high school girl, high
Yes.
school runaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Mishima's been left behind at the karaoke place. She says, "Oh, I'm just gonna stay." And like they're nice. They invite her. They're like, "Oh, we're going home to have dinner. Do you want to come? You can come with us." And she's like, "No, I want to sing some more karaoke," because she's having these, jealous
Mm.
bubblings and stuff like that. But then, yeah, then after that, they go to the Natsu Matsuri um, and enjoy cotton candy and fireworks, and like there's like some romantic tension um, in that. I think some kid runs into Sayu and she almost trips, and so Yamada sort of grabs her hand to keep her from falling, and so now they're essentially holding hands. And then she says something like, "Oh, this is a good idea. That way we won't get separated from each other. I won't get lost or whatever." So then they pretty much hold hands for the rest of the
Mm.
night and everything, which is pseudo romantic. Which again, hoping it's not going that way. Um, So anyway, yeah, the next day after the festival, somewhat early, they're both still asleep. There's a knock on Yamada's door, and he's like, "Who the hell could this be at this hour?" It's like I don't know how early it was, but early enough they were both asleep still. And he goes and he answers the door, and some guy that he doesn't know, and introduces himself, and he immediately realizes by the last name that this is a relative of Sayu's, and Sayu happens to be standing right behind him, and Sayu's like,
Mm.
"Oh, this is my brother," and
Oh well.
so he found her. When Yamada first answered the door, Sayu's brother said, "Oh, are you Yamada-san?" Meaning that he knew his name. He wasn't just going around randomly knocking on doors or something. So someone must have clued him in.
Mm.
And so this, sort of raises the speculation in my mind. Who was it? Is it Mishima, the
Yeah.
jealous one, which seems like the very obvious choice, which is why I think that's not the case.
Mm.
Um, what would create the most drama if it was Goto?
Mm. There you go.
If Goto sold out Sayu? Um, and that's my speculation of where it's going to go because that would create a lot of drama, and that's what the show lives on, thrives on, right? So,
Cue the violins.
yep, there's going to be some of that. So yeah, I'm just again speculating. I'm guessing Goto. Did she know that? She know about the brother? That's the thing. I don't know. I guess that's the sort of the sticking point. Is I don't remember at any point where Goto knew about the whole brother thing that her brother was looking. Sayu's
Mm.
brother was looking for her.
Did
Um,
you know that? Did the viewer, is the audience supposed to be aware of that, or is he just out of the blue?
Oh
Like,
no, yeah, so Yamada hadn't met him yet or seen him yet or didn't know who he was or anything. But in
mm.
in the previous episode, there's that creepy black sedan that's sitting outside her work a
Oh
lot,
yeah.
and then eventually her brother comes in and former rapist boy covers for her.
Oh, I see. I see.
Um,
Okay.
so we knew that, and at the beginning of this episode, she sees her brother and is hiding from him and everything. So
Mm.
we know that like he's looking for her. But I don't think we've seen anything where Goto knew anything about her brother.
Mm.
But Goto definitely knew that she was a runaway and that someone would be looking for her and presumably knew her name, so might have been able to contact her family in Hokkaido. And maybe this is the whole reason her brother's even there looking for her now,
Mm.
is because Goto set it up.
Okay.
Which, again, I'm only speculating that because it creates a good shit ton of drama, I think, and I think that's what they're going for. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, still liking this. Still has a good amount of the feels in it.
Mm.
Like seems like a touching story in some ways, and in some ways not. But I don't know. Yeah, it's good. I like it. It
Yeah.
feels heartfelt.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I'm gonna continue watching it, and
If a romance blossoms between those two main
Yamada
characters,
and Sayu.
will that is that a deal breaker, or it's just you would prefer it not to go that way?
I don't know. It really depends on how it goes down, but it
Yeah.
feels bad and awkward at this point.
Seems like the hand
If
holding is
if they went
definitely
that way.
a step in that direction, right? I mean,
Yeah, but again, at the same time, like you can look at it from a different point of view. It's not necessarily romantic hand holding.
yeah.
It's definitely alluded to, like it's made to sort of feel that way, like maybe there's some romance bubbling under the surface between either of them.
Mm.
Um, but at the same time, like, if I went to the fair, the local fair here with my niece, I wouldn't want her to get lost, and I would hold her hand.
That's
Uh,
true.
I mean, she's much older now, so I wouldn't need to. But when
But
when my brother's children were younger, yes, I held all of their hands very often, mostly because I didn't want them to get lost. And so, I don't know.
a little
It's
bit
not necessarily. I mean,
high school aged is a
certainly
little,
there's.
you know,
Yeah, yeah, you're right in that. I mean,
it's a little.
she's 15 or 16 or something like that, I
My whole
guess.
thing is
I'm
that if
trying to imagine that, like going. I mean, there's no way they would have let me hold their hand, but
yeah, right.
I mean, I think the closest I can think of is going to Disneyland. My oldest niece, she was 12 or 13 probably.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I mean, it was just so crowded that I
Yeah.
literally insisted that she hold my hand.
Yeah. Which
Um,
is yeah fair.
so yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, it was awkward for both of us, I think, at that point. So yeah, I see your point. I see your point.
It doesn't sound like either of them were too awkward with it. Like,
I mean, it was so yeah, it was unintentional and accidental on Yamada's part at the beginning. Like he was mostly just trying to keep her from falling, and then it was sort of Sayu's suggestion that she liked the idea, but the reason she stated was from a very innocent point of view.
mm,
Um, but maybe she has, some underlying reason for wanting to hold his hand.
mm,
Um, I don't know. I don't think Yamada reciprocates that. I think the whole idea of being romantically interested in a high schooler sort of puts him off a little bit.
mm,
Like he definitely has occasionally. Well, like she's wearing a yukata, right? And
mm.
Japanese girls in yukatas are hot. Everyone knows this, right? So he's intentionally like looking away from her a lot, and
Yeah.
and she like says, "Well, why are you looking away?" And he's like, "I don't know." Um, and it's because he's trying to avoid that whole thing, but
Yeah.
clearly he has some attraction to her that he's trying to avoid, and he feels bad that he does. And I don't know. I still hope they don't do it, but they might. And
I
and depending on how they do it, I might be okay with it a little bit.
I'm not even watching this show, but I have a prediction that that it's. I mean, not that they're gonna do it, but that it's gonna escalate enough to where what either one of them is going to like bring it up about
Confess
like
in their love
like
for
they
the
have
other.
feelings,
Yeah.
and then the other person is gonna say I've never thought of you in that way, and I'm calling bullshit, no matter which way it goes, like
Mm.
because like whenever you're, especially like if he's avoiding looking at her in a yukata, it's like clearly you've thought about it,
Oh
so
yeah. I mean, if that were the case, if Sayu were to confess to him and he were to say, "I've never thought about it,"
yeah,
he would be lying in the
yes,
same way that he's lying by not looking at her.
yes, yeah.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
that's what I'm calling. I'm
Um,
predicting that'll happen.
I mean, you might be right, because my prediction about Goto being the bad guy in this situation
Mm,
sort of forces them together more, because he's romantically interested in Goto, right?
yeah.
Um, she's I, I mean, somewhat. It seems like maybe somewhat romantically interested in Yamada,
Mm,
and Goto seems to be. I don't know. Love Pentagon, I think at this point is what we've got going on. But
Probably gonna add more characters to that too.
yes, if this drama that I'm predicting about Goto unfolds the way that I think it's going to, it definitely seems to sort of force them down that road of Sayu and Yamada, because I don't think Yamada can end up with Mishima because of her jealousy stuff going on. Like that's a negative character trait and it can't be rewarded, right? Um, I don't know.
Yeah, unless she has some sort of arc or
So I guess I'm
growth.
hoping I'm wrong about Goto.
Yeah, it's interesting with her too, because also, I'm just going off your,
Mm.
what you've explained to me, but I think it's kind of messed up what she's doing because she rejected him initially,
Yeah, she's
and
kind of
now she's
shitty too.
like keeping him on the line without like committing to anything. Like
But
she's let him know that she does have feelings for him, but
yeah,
she's still not ready. She's like, or something like that. Like she's
yeah,
not.
I don't. Yeah, it is odd in that way.
She's kind of holding him hostage in that sense.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't. Yeah, I don't. I don't know exactly what the reason is. Like she confessed essentially to him, saying that she's also interested in him. She just didn't think it was the right time for them to be in a relationship.
Mm.
Um, but I guess she still doesn't think it's the right time. So when is going to be the right time?
Yeah.
As long as it takes, I guess. I don't know.
As long as
Yeah,
the story
yeah. So
needs.
she's kind of shitty in that way too, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, I think I covered everything. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for
Yep. Everything and then
entertaining
some.
me. What are you at now? 6, 7?
It's still just cruising into 6.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's never really moved up. It's never really moved down. It's just kind of like it feels okay, and I don't I don't know. I feel like it's probably going to end the season at a 6 unless it completely shits the bed. But
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure how it moves up from where it is.
Yeah.
Like
Have to really
I don't
deliver on the
I don't
on
I
the
just
drama.
I can't imagine any way that it does, but I guess it's probably possible, but they would have to really surprise me, and I
Yeah.
don't think they're going to.
All right. So that's good enough.
Just good enough. Yep.
Cool. Well, moving on.
Speaking of just good enough,
Oh god. Yeah.
let's go to
Well,
just barely good enough. Like, yeah,
you're
I
pushing it.
like Higehiro better than I like Yakumo.
Me
Um,
too.
that's saying something since you're not watching one of them. Yeah, Yakumo, let's make a mug 2, Yakanata Mug Cup Mo episode 8. Yeah, why don't you start this off? I talked for a long time on that last one.
Okay. This is another non-pottery episode, and it's also a dream episode where none of it actually happened. That being said, I did prefer it over the stalker episode where they just followed their teacher for no good reason. But yeah, it's I don't know her name. It's the annoying blonde one.
Kikuri, or the title of the episode was Kikuri River something. I don't remember.
Okay, Kukuri, that
Um,
must be it.
Oh, sorry, Kukuri.
Oh, Kukuri.
Kukuri. Mika is her first name.
Oh,
So
Mika.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. Like she arrived at Himeno's dad's cafe and was like
Yeah.
waiting for all of them, or waiting for Himeno or something.
Something.
And it was kind of cute. Like there were moments that I thought were cute and whatnot, but like she like had just checked out some random book and was like trying to hide in it
For some reason.
yeah. Which was cute, but it also, the reason didn't really make sense. Like she seems
She
to be friendly with Jimena's dad and her grandma, so it's like
Yeah.
what's the big deal? But
So well, the way it was explained was that she had gone to the library not because she's interested in books or anything like that, but I guess because she likes to people watch or something like that. Like
maybe
she just likes being at the library or something, I think is what she said.
yeah.
And then they noticed the book and they started sort of talking about whatever the subject of the book was, and then she was embarrassed because she'd only checked out the book as an excuse to go to the library and she had actually no interest in the topic.
Yeah.
So then she's sort of hiding behind the book because she doesn't want them to realize that she only went to the library to do people watching or whatever it was that she said she went there to do.
Yeah.
Um,
And then
and
meanwhile,
and then she falls asleep.
the two of them, the dad and the grandma, are like, yeah, but they like while she's trying to hide from them, they just like sit right next to her and start talking,
Yeah.
and she's like freaking out, like, I thought you were gonna leave me alone. But yeah, so she falls asleep, and then they have
Dream episode.
dream episode. There's like this time of the year where there's eels in the river, and
Yeah, that was funny.
it
I
was
thought it was funny.
it was funny. It was cute, but I was like, leave those poor eels alone. They're just pulling them out of the water and poking at them.
But they're delicious, especially with some eel sauce on them.
We gotta cook
I mean,
them
those
first.
are
Right?
unagi.
Yes, yeah.
Delicious.
I guess you don't have to cook them, but can you eat them just like that?
No, you probably shouldn't.
Yeah. So there's a lot of cute stuff in here that, like, I literally wrote cute fluff. Like, that's all it was to me. I was like, story? What story?
Yeah, so there's this river festival thing that probably doesn't exist, but is part of her dream. And then they go into the river. They all suddenly have swimsuits on. Or they all surprisingly have swimsuits on under their clothes. They go into the river, and then they see a kappa. And then the kappa says, hey, follow me, and goes swimming down. And so they all follow down to this kappa castle under the water. And then they get there, and then there's like a quiz show at the kappa castle about stuff. And one of the questions is something about if Kukuri is the prettiest pottery maker, in which they all answered yes. And then they're wrong. And then
trick question.
And then she wakes up.
Yeah, and it all related to the stuff that the grandma and dad were talking about when she fell asleep,
sitting next to her, right?
Yeah.
So it was all sort of infecting her dreams, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then I will say, with they all were wearing swimsuits, it's definitely the most like I don't know what the right word is, but like risque the show has ever been, because they were real. I mean, especially the one Kukuri was wearing was very revealing. Like her bottom, her swimsuit bottom was especially like pretty thin on
I don't
clothing.
remember noticing that, George. Are you
hey man,
really
when
into 2D girls?
when there's not well, yeah, isn't that why we start an anime podcast? Who's your waifu? When there's
Kumako.
not
I'll take Kumako
in
for 1,000, Alex.
Interesting, your waifu this season
Is a spider.
I'll have to think on that for me. But no, anyway, when there's not much to latch onto, it's like,
yeah, I guess you
Then
notice more stuff like
I'm
that.
looking at little detail. And there was something going on. I forget who
Looking
it
at
was,
little
but
girl
like
butts, yeah.
when they were revealing all their swimsuits, like I forget who, but two of them were like kind of like coming on. I mean, not like that sexually, but there was like a hint of, and I was just like, this is weird. This is not what this show is about. Like,
Yeah, it's not, but it was intended to be weird.
and I guess it's
like-
just all in her head. Like she's a little
Yeah.
perverted, maybe.
Well,
don't
she
know.
likes the idea that everyone loves her.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was
I
that was
guess
sort of the main thing.
I suppose, yeah, it all just comes back to that. But yeah, so yeah, you summed it up, and then she wakes up and it's over. So
Yeah. What does my notes say? Kukuri stops by the cafe, accidentally falls asleep, and has an odd dream about eels, kappa, and quiz shows. Yep, that's it. That's what happened. And then the seiyus.
Which once again I enjoyed more than the which isn't always the case.
Can I
but,
read my summary of this too? It's also in one sentence.
Sure.
The seiyus wander around town in yukatas, have a snack, visit some ugly kappa statues, have another snack, and then another snack, and then finally light some sparklers.
Yeah, that's fair. They eat a lot of snacks. I or
A lot of
sweet
snacks.
sweets actually. But I liked it because like they were goofier in this episode than they had been previously. Like they were just making weird noises and like lame jokes.
I still like the one. What is? Hold on, let me flip the page. It's hard to tell from these pictures. I'm not sure,
Let me see.
and I don't
that.
know which character she plays either. So
It doesn't say on here. Oh, you mean in general? You don't know?
yes, I can't associate the two. I can't find a face that looks like her amongst the list that I have there. Well, I don't know. I'm gonna have to. There's probably like she's probably been doing it for a long time, and there's like a younger picture of her there or something.
Yeah.
Because she seems like the oldest. You know the one I'm talking about, then probably.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
older one, yeah. She's
She's-
great. She's my favorite of the
Nice.
seiyus. Yeah. All right. Should we talk about the Saint's magic power, or did you have more pottery related commentary?
I gave it a strong 5.
Yeah, there's no pottery in the anime. There's no pottery. Well, I guess they do see some tile work
Yeah, I see some tile
and
work.
the Kappa statues, I guess, right?
Yes, which were
Yeah,
both in the show, so it's kind of cool to see like the
yeah,
real life
that's true.
inspiration for it.
That's true.
But yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed seeing the Kappa statues more than I enjoyed the underwater Kappa dream sequence.
It was just silly and fun, George. Just let yourself have some fun.
I'm not
Just let
fun.
loose. All right, are we ready for a half a page of the Saint's magic power is omnipotent?
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Um, I will try to get through it quickly. A lot happens in this episode, as we've said many times about many episodes in
Yep.
this episode. Um, so, say at the beginning, Say is doing some reading in the Forbidden Library. The Grand Magus shows up, and they sort of talk about what she's reading, which is about plants and stuff, because she has an interest in plants. As we know, we've seen it many times.
Mm.
And in her talk with the Grand Magus, she becomes interested in the idea of using how do I say this? Imbuing plants with magic. So normally, like when they're making a potion, they pick the plants and then they put the plants in some water, and then they imbue that concoction with magic, and that's what makes it into a potion.
Okay.
And I guess you can also like take plants and pick them, and then sort of directly imbue those plants with some sort of magic, which then makes them medicinal herbs or something like that, I guess. So she is thinking of the idea of imbuing the living plants with magic before they are picked, which might make them more magical, and then you
Hmm.
can, do more magic again and more magic again or something like that. Um, but she's, I don't know, she's not really finding a way to do that. And then later at the institute, we see her trying to imbue magic into the water. That she's thinking like, I can put magic in the water and then water the plants, and that would make them magical, plants, right?
Maybe.
But she's completely unable to do that. And then again later, she talks to the Grand Magus again about the idea. About she says, "Is there anything in this world like holy water?" There was not a real thing in our world, but like in the fantasy world of our world, you could make you could bless water and make it holy, and it would destroy undead things and stuff like that. It had magical properties, and he's like, no, never heard of it. Doesn't exist, basically. But then he says, there is this power that could do that, but nothing is really known about it except one, that it exists, and the effects of it are sort of like what you're describing. Like it destroys all monsters, not just a specific class of monsters like the undead or anything like that. And he says it's called Saint's Conjuring. And of course, because she's the saint, he's going to tell her about this, magic power that only saints can use. And then they sort of discuss like why there's so little known about it, and it's because most of the magic that's recorded, or how to do magic stuff that's recorded, is stuff that anyone can use, basically. So things that are like very limited to like one person who's summoned from a different reality, basically. Like, why would they record, what is needed to use that magic if no one
Mm.
can actually use it, right?
Yeah, not
So,
practical.
yeah. So they sort of go over that and like why that's not. And so she's sort of thinking about that, as well as like this whole idea of like imbuing plants with magic and stuff. And like late one night, she's just out wandering in the garden, thinking about this world and how much she enjoys it compared to her life in Japan and stuff like that. And then she just sort of like, this magic just sort of starts coming out of her, basically, and then it sort of casts itself across a very wide range, and all the plants now have magic imbued into them. So she essentially accomplished what she was trying to accomplish, but she has no idea how she did it, other than she was just thinking about her life and stuff like that.
Huh.
And yeah, so she spends apparently a couple days, and we don't see all of it, but she spends a couple days like trying to figure out how she did it, how to recreate it, how to use this power, because it seems very powerful compared to anything else that she's ever done. and she's fairly unsuccessful, or she's completely unsuccessful in doing any of that. And then the next thing that happens is she's told by the leader of the research institute that she lives at that she's been requested to go on an expedition with one of the Knights Guards or something like that. They're going into the Western Woods to kill some monsters or something like that, and they want her to go along to be able to heal people. And so she says, "All right, I guess I'll do that." And then she goes to go do that, and of course, the Ice Knight and the Grand Magus are both there um, to accompany her and protect her, since she is the saint, as far as they know, and as far as we know, and as far as she knows, and as far as everyone knows, she's the saint. All right, there's no question. We might have two saints, but we definitely have one, and we know this. So the Ice Knight being the romantic interest I've told you about, and the Grand Magus being the most powerful wizard in the land. Anyway, and he's the Grand Magus, it seems like, is actually there mostly to sort of study her and learn more about the power that she has and stuff, because that's always kind of been his thing, is learning more about the saint's power.
Yeah.
And he pesters her about it a little bit on the ride over there. And then they get there, and then they go on their expedition out into the woods, and they come under attack from some monsters. Well, I guess actually at first there are no monsters around, and the Grand Magus says, I wonder why that is, say, because of that magic thing that she did.
Okay.
Apparently drove off all the monsters from that area. And so then they wander deeper into the woods, and they eventually encounter some higher level monsters, and all the knights and everything are fighting, and she's going around healing everybody. And then like a even more powerful monster shows up, and it's sort of besting them. And then there's like a saber-toothed tiger sort of thing that attacks the Ice Knight and basically digs its fangs into his shoulder. And then she's like, no, not him. And then boom, super magic thing comes out again and destroys all the monsters. So
super easy.
Yeah, well, I mean, she is super OP, but they knew that. That's why they summoned her, was so they would have a super OP. But yeah, she still essentially doesn't know like what happened or how that happened, why it happened. But we are pretty clear that it's because she was in love with him, and the whole thing before was she was thinking about how much she loves this land compared to Japan, or compared to her previous life and everything. So the saint's magic power is love, is what it seems the point of this all is.
And love, as we all know, is quite omnipotent.
Omnipotent, yes. Love conquers all.
Aww.
Or if you were to rephrase it in the modern nomenclature for its actual meaning of how it was meant in the day, love conquers everyone. It's a little darker when you say it that way.
Is it really love, though, or is it just infatuation? Oh!
I mean, it's really like love bests everyone. Love gets the better of everyone. If you fall in love, you are a victim of love. Might as well face it, I'm a victim. No, that's not the right words. Addicted to love is the right words. Sorry, threw you
But
off.
I think the Eagles have a song called "Victim of Love."
Oh yeah,
Victim of love.
yeah. Not my favorite Eagles song, but yeah, you're right.
It's closer than "Addicted to Love."
Yeah, it's true. I just didn't think of it.
Just Joe Walsh hater over here.
It's just not my favorite Eagles song.
Well, welcome back to our 70s rock podcast.
All right, so today we're going to talk about the Rush album with the big blue owl on the cover.
Fly By Night.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Fly by night away from here. All right.
Good song.
Let's move on. Shall we?
Shall we?
Shall we?
Okay. Well, we're getting near the end. We got what do we got next, Tony?
Your mom?
My mom, yes. Great anime.
My favorite. my waifu of the season. Your mom.
Oh, she's not a spider. Okay, so we got
do you want to do it again?
No, we're good. We got a little show called To Your Eternity.
Yeah, Fumetsu no Anate.
And
episode number Nana.
Right. 7 for you people like me. Yeah, this is a good one. I mean, this show's been good
Mm.
consistently, but I like this one. It's my favorite in a few.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. Like I felt, I remember. All right, so I read ahead in the manga.
Yes,
So
you got a distorted perception of the anime now,
I had
because
read way past this by the point that I watched this actually. So, um, yeah. So my notes are pretty sparse actually. It's mostly just to keep me from accidentally saying any spoilers. But yeah, Gugu's backstory.
yeah.
I felt like the transition into it in the manga was smoother, but I went
Mm,
back and looked at it afterwards because I had that thought, and no, it's literally like the one chapter just starts off with that,
with him, yeah.
and that's how this episode starts. So it actually lines up perfectly yet again, much like
Nice.
all of this anime versus the
It's been a solid adaptation.
yeah. I mean, very spot on overall. Yeah.
So, in short, I mean, Gugu is a kid in this village that they have just arrived to.
Did you, curiosity, did you know who he was in relation to anything prior to this?
Well, yeah, in last week's episode, the end of it, they, after they get through the forest and all that, they get to the house where
Mm,
the old lady's dude lives.
yeah.
I don't really understand their relationship even after this episode, but
I mean, she said literally he was her lover in
yeah.
the past. So
Oh, okay,
they're
okay,
lovers,
okay.
apparently.
At least, yeah, they have a history. But they didn't seem to,
Loverly.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
true.
But older people tend not to do PDA too much.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But
But
yeah, so we see a kid just very briefly at the end of last week's episode
mm,
wearing this
helmety sort of thing.
yeah, helmet that looks thick, like looks like it's made of like ceramic, or like
I
it
think it's
has,
made of wood.
is it wood?
I got that impression in the anime, not
Oh,
as
okay.
much in the manga, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't
Um,
sure. It just looks smooth, and it's got an interesting design with different colors, and it's a
Yeah,
cool
sort
mask.
of chameleon-esque with the
Yeah,
eyes on the side and
yeah,
stuff. And yeah.
definitely. And it's cute.
But
It's
yeah,
cute too.
I just wasn't sure like how solid that connection was made between the episodes, between the end of that one
Mm.
and the beginning of this one. Like if when we saw this kid, like how long did it take before you realized that was the kid?
I mean, I assumed immediately,
Oh, okay.
but then not that I questioned it as it went on, but I was just like, as we were learning about him and his life, it's kind of like, I don't think it went that far in the past, but it's just a brief backstory.
Yeah.
He's living with his older brother, and they just kind of makeshift. They're like nearly homeless, it seems, and they
They live in a small tent in a sort of in the woods outside of town. They seem to work on a farm to make money and
yeah. And I
yeah.
don't know how that works, because it seems like they're selling these vegetables, fruits and vegetables, like themselves. But it's like, do they
Mm.
own this land that they're farming, or like,
Oh no, certainly not.
yeah, we don't learn much about I don't know, circumstances of
Mm.
what they're doing. But needless to say, they're saving up money and wishing for a better life. But this all, and so I guess there's a few things going on here. But Gugu's in town, running like the little, stand they have.
Selling the vegetables at the vegetable stand, yeah.
Yeah, and he keeps noticing this girl who is wearing better clothes. Comes from more money than he is used to, but she's
Mm.
cute and around his age, and so he's
Mm.
he's shy, but he's like you're afraid to make eye contact with her, but is kind of infatuated from afar,
Mhm.
and yeah, I'm trying to remember. Like they have an interaction where she's looking for her cat or dog,
Dog,
as a
yeah.
dog, and
I mean, well, he encountered the dog before too,
oh,
but
that's true, yeah.
yeah. But in this instance that you're talking about, yeah, the he had run into the dog previously when he's out eating like a meat
Oh
bun sort
yeah,
of thing in the woods, and he gives the dog like half of the meat bun,
which
and
ridiculous. Is a tiny dog does not need half of
oh
that
yeah,
meat bun. I'm like,
no,
what are
I'm
you doing
sure he
here?
enjoyed it though.
Oh yeah, oh
Um,
yeah,
but really, it's more that Gugu, like I think,
yeah.
only needed half of it. He offered it to his brother. His brother didn't want it, so he's like, "Well, I'm gonna eat half of it. Here, dog, you can have the other half, I guess."
And it shows
Um,
how sweet and thoughtful he is. Like
mm,
even though
yeah.
he's sort of a scrappy orphan.
Oh yeah, he's poor as dirt, and he's still willing
Yeah.
to give half of his food to a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, and so yeah, in this scene that you're talking about, he's in town selling vegetables, and he sees this dog again, and he's like, "Hey,
Mm.
you're that dog. Sorry, I don't have any meat buns today." Um, and then he goes over, and the dog has a tag on that has a
Mm.
name on it,
Yeah.
which is Mir,
Yeah, you
right?
would know better
Yeah.
having read it.
Um, so Mir, the dog, Mir, like the space station, I guess.
Okay.
Mir,
Nice.
without the accent. Yeah. So he sees, oh, your name is Mir, and then he hears this voice calling, Mir, Mir, where are you?
Mm.
And it's the girl.
That same girl, yeah.
Yeah. And so he takes the dog over and says, "Is this what you're looking for?"
Mm.
And she's like, "Oh, thank you." And then
She gives him her
Mm.
ring,
Yeah.
and says, like, sell this and you'll
All
never
right.
have to work a
She
day
takes
again.
off. She says, "I should give you something, to say thank you or something."
Yeah.
And takes off the ring and hands it to him. And her mother, who is behind her, says, "Oh, your father gave you that ring." And she says, "Oh, well, he should have known that it's not the color that I like," or something like that. So she's still very upper class, stuck uppy.
Little brat.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. And then she says, "Here, sell this, and you'll never have to sell vegetables again."
Yeah.
Um,
And
and then her mother sort of chastises her for that, saying, "You shouldn't have said that. That was kind of rude."
and then he tries to, I forget what he says, but he tries to, converse with her and says something, and
Oh yeah,
she's
and
they're
gone,
long
and
gone, yeah.
that's when that happens.
But then that comes up again, where I'm like, is this girl deaf? 'Cause so essentially, his brother just up and leaves and takes all the money, and just leaves a note being like, sorry.
Yes, previously some money had gone missing, and Gugu asked his brother about it, and his brother was a dick about it, and
Just shrugged it off.
yeah, and then this time he goes back, and like the box is just the box of money that Gugu had hidden is completely empty. His brother's gone. There's a note inside the box. The contents of the note are something like, "Sorry, bro, had to go. Got to catch some waves." Or, not really the waves thing, but you know what I mean.
Hang
He was,
10 and all that.
Yeah, he was a fucking douche tool bag.
Yeah, which is messed up. And then and then the Gugu is I don't think anything happens after that, but he's like walking down the street. I mean, he's not on the street, but he's
Yeah.
like next to it. And there's like sort
It's
of
not a street. There's train tracks, right?
was it train tracks? I thought
Yeah.
it was like a road, like a dirt
No.
road.
No, it's train tracks.
Are you sure? Okay, it's a minor point. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I
But
was just trying to think of how I could say that in a way that didn't relate back to me chastising you for being wrong about the other thing.
No, it's
I am
fine.
very sure that it was train tracks.
Well, hey, you experienced it in two different mediums, so I'm sure you're right. But all right, I didn't catch on to that. But anyway, train tracks.
There's a cart coming down
with like
the
logs.
road / tracks with a bunch of logs on it.
Yeah, and the guy's going a little fast, and then one of the logs pops off in the air and starts rolling down this hill, and like almost hits Gugu. Like kind of goes over him, I guess.
Kind of just barely goes over his head. Yeah.
And then there's like this
and he says something like, "Oh, lucky that didn't hit me. It would have killed me." And then the guy's like,
and he's already feeling down about his brother.
And then
there's
there's like a little tiny tree. That
very
the log
tiny.
gets caught on.
Very tiny.
The dude who was driving the cart is like, "Oh, I'll just roll it back up the hill," and he can't move it because it's a giant freaking log.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I need to go get help. Keep an eye on that for me, will you, kid?" And he just runs off. And then the little miniature tree starts breaking, and the log starts rolling down the hill, and Gugu sees down the hill is this beautiful, beautiful rich girl that he is so much in love with.
Yep.
And he goes running down the hill. Hey, this is the deaf thing you were talking about.
Yes. Because he's
Hey, move! You're in
several
danger!
times.
You're in danger! Hey,
and louder and louder.
yeah. And he's like at some point like 6 feet away from her, and she's still just like not at all even recognizing that he exists. Essentially. Anyway, and he finally gets to her and just sort of jumps and shoves her out of the way, and then he ends up sort of careening over the edge of a small cliff,
Yeah.
not a large cliff,
Yeah.
maybe 6 foot fall or something like that. But then the log also careens over that same cliff and basically lands on his head,
Yeah.
mm,
Which
completely smashing his face and head. And then we hear some.
so must have not. I don't know. Like if you imagine like a log that big, I mean, even if it's only a 6 foot drop, I don't know. It's like it must not have landed directly on his head because I feel like it would have just crushed
Yeah,
his
like,
skull.
oh yeah, no, in reality he would have been absolutely dead. But
Okay.
like the best case scenario I'm thinking is it could have like smashed his nose and like
Mm,
jaws and stuff
yeah.
while leaving his throat undamaged so that he could still breathe and his brain undamaged. Like that's
Mm,
it's a pretty small log at that point. But
yeah.
in reality, the way that it was shown in this and in the manga, like his head was flattened essentially. But
Yeah.
cartoon's
So,
gonna
I mean,
cartoon.
I'll accept it by a stroke of luck. I mean, who knows of like where the log landed and where he was
Yeah,
positioned. It messed up his face. He's
yeah.
disfigured,
hmm
but he survives. But
And then,
oh
well, after the log lands on him,
yes,
he can still hear, like he's still clearly
he's
alive,
like
right?
conscious.
He can hear, and like this girl who he just saved, her family is like worried about her. Oh no, she cut her arm or something like that.
Yeah,
And
they're all running to help her,
yeah,
and they completely ignore him,
yeah.
or
Well, I
they
mean,
don't
he's
see
off like a
him.
6 foot cliff, so maybe
That's
they
true.
don't see him or
Yeah.
whatever, right? Yeah,
Um,
or they don't care because they're rich and he's not.
yeah, and I
Um,
appreciated this scene because I felt like it could have gone into to e- either way. It could have gone into cliche territory or just kind of like uh, well-worn territory of either like the pity route where like some
mm,
they see him and they take pity on him, and
mm.
not that they do that much, but like they didn't do that.
And get sort of a Wuthering Heights, Heathcliff sort of thing going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or especially the girl like noticing too, like, oh, he's well, the other end would be like, oh, like that she knew he saved
Mm.
her,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
she would be indebted to him. And I like that. They
Yeah.
completely,
Avoid that.
yeah, and it kind of plays into how bad his luck is being at this this on this week, I guess, where his brother up and left, and he has
Mm.
no money, he's penniless,
Yeah.
and yeah, his now his face is disfigured. But yeah, he gets
One other thing I wanted to mention from that scene was after the log crushes his head and they're all like calling out to her and worried about her. He hears all of that,
mm,
and we see him like laying under the log and him hearing all of that, and they're calling her name, and he's like, "Oh, so that's her name,
yeah,
Rayan."
Diana.
Or Reen, maybe I'm not sure exactly, but either
Yeah.
way. Anyway, I liked
Hmm.
that just that little thing, like, oh, so that's her name.
Yeah.
The girl that I'm in love with, I didn't know her name, but now that I'm being crushed by this
Yeah,
log,
like he
and
must be covered in blood, like his
yeah,
face, right?
oh
Like,
yeah,
they don't
oh
really show us.
yeah, in the manga it's blood
Oh,
splattered
okay.
out,
Yeah,
yeah,
we don't
yeah,
see
but
much blood.
they don't do that in anime too
Yeah.
much, yeah.
Um, that's interesting in the manga. But yeah, so then I guess we didn't talk about there's this old man that we already know is this lover or ex-lover of the old lady that
Yeah.
Fushi's with.
hmm
But earlier on he was introduced, and the older brother was saying like, oh, that guy is crazy, and there's all these
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
legends
that's
about
right.
him, like it kind of reminded me of like Home Alone, the first one, like the neighbor where
Oh
he's
right,
quiet and
yeah,
stuff, and
yeah.
he's murdered children
Uh,
and that whole thing. But this old man's finds Gugu and takes him in and rehabilitates him,
yeah.
which is cool. And
Somewhat heals him. Doesn't really heal the I don't know what you'd call it.
disfigurement.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure what could be done in their time with a kind of a not a lot of
Yeah, that's probably true.
not a lot of technology to assist with that sort of thing, um but yeah, and then that almost brings us up to speed. He essentially starts he obviously he takes on this his face is kind of hideous, and so he's very
Mm.
self-conscious about it, and he starts wearing this helmet.
Mhm.
Chameleon is a good spot on. chameleon helmet, and he becomes sort of an apprentice or a helper to the old man, who is a alcohol brewer
He's a
distiller.
sake brewer. The kid
Yeah,
calls him Booze Man, I think, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems like he still does like the farming and stuff. The kid too. Seems like he juggles both of those things. Because he
Does he?
talks
I don't
later about
remember.
like we farm in the morning, and then
Oh yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right.
we do this, and then we run the shop. Or
I think that farming is for the old man, not for
oh,
the
okay.
person he used to work for. But
Oh, okay. It's
yeah,
different.
yeah. I think they're farming whatever you need to farm for sake. I guess rice. Although it doesn't look like rice because it's not patties, but
Yeah.
whatever. Maybe they're farming just for their own food for the household
Oh,
or
that could
whatever.
be.
Yeah.
That could be. So yeah, and that pretty much brings us up to speed of where we left off from the previous
Yep.
episode.
And we've got Piran and Fushi arriving at the old man's house and meeting Gugu and Boozman. And
Luis Guzman. Sorry.
I wonder if it has a name for him in my thing over here.
Well, while you look for that, yeah, I liked. It was really cool. Like Gugu. I mean, Gugu's still a kid, and he still doesn't. He has Boozman.
Gramps, that's what it
Gramps.
says. Yeah.
But he sort of has a makeshift family with him, but he just lashes on to Fushi, like because they show Pioran is just I forgot her name, so thank you. But she's showing Gramps or whatever, the different forms he can take.
Yeah,
and,
Fushi's immortal and he can do all these
yeah.
things, and yeah.
But like Gugu doesn't really care about any of that.
Yeah.
Like he's semi interested in it, but he's more just I don't know. It's so sweet and endearing. Like he just latches on to him.
Yeah, well, he's
And
looking for another Onisan, right?
yeah,
Like his
yeah,
big brother left him, and now he's looking for another one. And
yeah.
little does he know, he instead has an Ototo-san.
That's right. And he seems to be cool with that too, which is, kind of echoes, March, and her, she was, wanted to be a mother
Yeah.
very badly and got to do that, a little bit with Fushi. And now Gugu's kind of carrying that torch, even though he never knew her. But it made me think of like Fushi's almost like a litmus test for like a person's integrity or like their how they interact with him. It's like because they were joking, Pioran and Boozman were joking about like like selling him or like turning a profit somehow, like
Right.
and so
Have him performing on the corner and
yeah,
or
doing
various different schemes that they came up with.
chopping off one of his legs. You can grow it back.
Well, yeah, actually, the booze man says, I wonder if I could make immortal sake if I
Oh, yeah.
chop off one of his fingers and make sake from it. And that's the point that Gugu kind of gets upset. And he's like, I was just joking,
like
old
sure,
booze man.
sure you were. But then Gugu is just he's more pure and innocent and still a child and craves that
And I think it's
familial.
during that conversation that like Pioran says, "Oh, so you're gonna be his little brother or something," and he's like, "No, I'm gonna be his big brother. He doesn't know anything.
For
This
real.
kid's stupid."
And since Fushi's talking and stuff and can answer questions, it's just it's really great. Like it's very entertaining, but then also
It's sort of funny. Last episode, you were commenting on how his ability to verbalize had increased so much to such a level,
like a little rapid.
and then in this episode, his verbalizations have decreased again, where he's saying like 2-word sentences basically,
Yeah.
like which seems more realistic for. So it was, I guess, yeah. In retrospect, it was kind of weird last episode that he was able to communicate such complex thoughts.
Yeah.
Whereas in this episode, he's not.
Yeah, and this
as
one
much.
they which I like, they make it clear that like because Gugu's asking him all these kinds of questions,
Yeah.
and like very quickly it's like he doesn't understand most of these words.
Yeah.
And they're not complicated words, but
I mean, even then, like Gugu's asking these questions and Fushi's just not saying anything.
yeah.
And then Gugu's like, "Hey, if you don't know the answer, just say I don't know.
Yeah.
Wakaranai."
And then he says that for like everything.
Everything, yeah.
Unless he does know it, I suppose. But
That's true. Um,
But yeah, and then okay, and then the last part of this, I believe, is
oh, I'm only halfway through my notes.
well, there's Rayon or Rayan, Reen, whatever,
Reen, I think.
whatever her dang
So
name
in
is.
like Japanese, it sounds like they're saying Reen, but in the spelling of the subtitles, it's
Mhm.
Rean,
Yes.
like Leanne or Rian or something like that.
Yeah,
But
Van, Reen.
Reen. I don't know. I'll have to double check. Um,
Well, anyway, her, that girl,
yes, the girl,
the girl,
the girl.
she shows up and comes into the store, which I guess is just
Just
for alcohol. Like
yeah,
it's just
the booze shop.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
just it's like a Bevmo.
yeah.
Um, and she's looking for not alcohol. She's looking for food or something. Like she wants to
She's
eat something.
looking for some sort of healing
Oh
potion or
yes.
something,
Oh yeah.
basically,
She wants
right?
something to heal.
She
Yeah.
says, I have this wound on my arm and it hasn't healed in 3 months or something, I
Okay,
think.
which is likely from the incident, I'm
Yes,
guessing.
I would assume so, yeah.
And then I enjoyed this. It was just funny, like the way they did it. Like, she,
Mm,
I don't know, she starts to get very interested and is asking all these questions.
mm,
And at first, Gugu thinks it's towards him, and
mm.
he's just smitten that she's even
Yes.
talking to him.
He's all his mask is all blushing and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's made obvious that she's fascinated by Fushi. She must think he's cute.
Yeah.
And
One of the last questions she asks is, "Oh, what's your name?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm Gugu. I wasn't asking you. I was asking him." Gugu's like, "Oh, he's Fushi.
he's
Damn
like
it, Fushi.
he's like, you don't want to be into him. He knows nothing.
Doesn't even know how to wipe his own ass." Not that she says that, but
Yeah. Oh
something
yeah.
along those lines.
Yeah. He's like he doesn't even know how to dress himself
Mm,
or do something else. And she's like, well,
yeah.
I could help you
Oh
with
yeah.
that.
Or I could help undress him.
Kind of creepy little girl.
Mm.
Um.
Only joking,
oh, am I?
she says.
But that was really cute. I like that whole
Mm,
element of
yeah.
because Fushi, obviously has no idea, like, isn't reading into this at all.
Oh yeah.
Has no idea about,
He has no he's been alive for we don't know exactly how long, but not very long, less than a year, presumably.
yeah,
And he has no social context for anything. Yeah.
just completely,
Yeah.
over his head. So it's a fun. They do that well, playing that for laughs.
Yeah.
While not betraying any of the,
And there's a number of other like minor laughs and stuff like that where what was it? She's, "Oh, why do you wear that mask thing?" And Fushi's like, "Ugly."
He's like,
And
no, it's
and
cool. It's
Gugu
cool."
like talks over him and is like, "No, it's to bring in customers. It's advertising, Yeah.
People love this mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Little
then
little bits like that. There's a lot of those little bits.
yeah, which is fun. It's hard to remember all of them, but yeah, it was definitely entertaining.
Mm.
And then I don't remember what happens directly after that, but then it leads to
So Gugu essentially becomes jealous of her interest in Fushi, and then he goes off to his room and is crying, I think. And the old man comes in and says some old proverb that doesn't seem to relate, some old proverb about sake that seems completely unrelated. And he says, yeah, well, I don't mean sake, but you can't focus too much on one thing, right? You have to just use these moments that you feel beat down to better yourself. Not those words, but that was essentially the
gist.
sentiment of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so Gugu decides that he's gonna work through his depression and jealousy and stuff by working out. Basically, he goes out and starts doing some chin-ups and stuff.
Yeah. And Fushi tries to join him, and
Yeah.
he, kicks him out.
Gugu
Or kicks him away.
literally kicks
Yeah,
him.
kick.
No, Fushi, you don't need to.
She already likes you.
You're already too handsome, you son of a bitch. Not that he says that, but that was what he meant to say.
Yeah, read between the lines.
And yeah, so Gugu had taken a liking to Fushi until the girl that Gugu likes had taken a liking to Fushi as well, I guess, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is it's just fun. It's a fun setup.
And then so this is where I have to talk about its departure from the manga.
Oh,
And it's literally
snap.
just like one little tiny bit, but it was like it felt awkward and out of place to me.
Hmm.
Maybe because I read the manga first. Um, but after Gugu kicks Fushi and he leaves the chin up bar and Gugu's down there doing his chin ups and the old man says something like, "Oh, good for you, kid," doing the working out and stuff like that.
Being a man.
Yeah. And then like the old man and Piran and Fushi are all standing there and then they all just sort of burst into laughter.
Hmm.
Yeah, that did not happen in the manga, and
Oh.
it felt really awkward. Like, what? Why are they all just standing there laughing? Anyway, maybe it didn't feel awkward in the anime, but
Not really. I mean, because the old, the two old people just laughing. I'm like, whatever. So I just assumed it was to, a silly moment to show that Fushi is learning to laugh because he's clearly just mimicking them,
yeah,
and doesn't really get it. But
yeah. I mean, he clearly didn't get what the joke was or anything. He was just joining in with them. But
yeah, so I
yeah.
figured that's all that was
All right.
intended to do. But that's interesting. It's not in the manga because you think,
Yeah.
laughter is, that's a very important facet of being human.
Yeah, I mean that chapter of the manga ends on a sort of. Actually, is it even? It's not even the end of a chapter, right? Yeah, that's sort of
Watch it.
6 pages into the chapter. But that page ends on basically him doing chin ups and the old man saying, "Ah, good for you, kid." Basically.
Oh,
That's-
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then the next scene is what we're going to see in next episode, I assume. So, or the next page is what we're going to see in next episode.
Pick up from there.
So, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It felt awkward, but I definitely thought that might have been just because I recognized that it was not something that was in the manga. It
Like, wait a minute.
felt out of place. Like I'm like, I don't remember this.
Well, pretty much everything else seems like it's been spot on.
There was one other thing in this episode that I thought felt out of place, and I was like, I don't remember that in the manga. But I went back and looked, and it was.
Oh, okay.
So, and I did not point it out in this episode because it has future implications.
Ah. Well, there you go.
But yeah, so there was one other thing that I thought felt out of place, and I didn't point it out or call it out in this episode, but it turns out it was actually in the manga exactly like that. I just I didn't recall that particular little bit. I mean, it was one cell, so Anyway, I've decided that on this one I'm gonna start doing a sort of manga report, I guess.
Oh.
So this episode encapsulates chapters 14, 15, and a little bit of 16. There are 42 pages that were adapted into this episode.
Oh, wow.
18 and 14, 18 and 15, and 6 of chapter 16. And I am currently on chapter 21.
Wow.
So I'm a little ahead. A couple episodes ahead, I guess.
Okay.
Probably. Depending on what the ratio is of pages to episode. But yeah, 42 pages in this episode. So,
wow. Wow.
We were talking about My Hero before, and
yeah.
This is where that idea comes from of like saying like how many pages was this episode adapted from? This episode covers 42 pages. That seems like a good amount, right? For an episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very curious to maybe look into the My Hero thing.
I am curious as well, especially compared to when it started. But
right. Yeah.
Which this is also in its first season, so
I wonder if someone's done that. But I feel like someone should have done that, and if no one has, I have to do it now.
Yeah. We get some good content for our social media.
Yeah, I could just make a blog post about it or something on our website, and whatever.
Link to
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Anyway, that pretty much wraps up all of this season stuff that we're watching, but we have a little thing called the special challenge, wherein I have asked George to watch one of my favorite anime of all time, which is Flying Witch, and George has asked me to watch one of his favorite anime of all time, which has been how many 6 different things thus far. As it turns out, I've watched everything.
Yeah, he beat me to the punch.
Because I am a jackass. And yeah, that's what I do. So let's first get George's report on Flying Witch episode 7.
Yes. slice of life show about a witch. I enjoy it quite a bit.
Mm.
I like it. This one, so this one I think you were confusing, or you were thinking of when I was talking about the previous episode, which I don't know if I have notes for that one. But there's a previous episode earlier on where they were picking this herb, kind of on the street. It was
Mm.
kind of busting out of the next to the sidewalk, and they
Yeah,
like
the root thing of some sort. What's it called?
um
I can't think of it.
yeah, bake is what they called it.
Oh, okay.
BAKKE, and they like deep fried it. This was in episode
Oh,
two.
wait, maybe I'm thinking of something else. But okay.
Because when I was talking about that one, I think you were thinking about this one,
Okay.
which they go herb picking, and
Okay.
they go like out into the woods, and they're like beware of bears and all that. No bears show up, but that's the first half of the episode, and that's when they're picking. They call them ostrich ferns. They're like the little spirally things.
I do recall that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I loved this. That's the first half. We'll get to the second half. But I loved the way this episode started because it showed their friend, their mutual friend now. Her name is Now.
Yeah.
And she goes to high school with the main witch character. And
Yep. I know who you mean.
yeah, I didn't get these dang names down.
You want this?
Is this Flying Witch?
Yeah, that's Flying Witch. Yeah. No.
Okay, so Makoto, yes, and then Kei. All right.
Mm.
So they're cousins, and they go to high school together, and they're both friends with Now. And so the episode starts. She's like walking down the street, and Makoto's cat, she's a witch. She's got a black cat, Chito or Chito. Is like just hanging out and like meows at her, and she starts petting him, and he's like loving it and purring, and then she's kind of like kind of feeling him up, his like belly and side and stuff, and she's like, wow, you've gained some weight, and he clearly gets offended by this. And then it cuts to back at the house, and they're waiting for Now to go herb picking. But then she shows up, and Cheeto is like on her shoulders and like is very very upset, and he's just and they're like asking what's going on, and she's kind of explaining, and he's just like slapping her like forehead with his tail, just like repeatedly, and it was cute and hilarious.
Yeah. Good time.
Definitely a highlight. And I wrote cat fat shaming. And so they do the herb picking, and yeah, I mean, it's like I don't really remember anything that's special from it. But then they come home, and they prepare all the things they picked,
cook up all the stuff.
Yeah, and they're all eating it, and Akane,
it looks delicious. God,
it does look yummy. Akane, who is Makoto's older sister, who's also a witch, is still there. She's kind of just hanging around at the house. She's super lazy.
Yeah, sleeps a lot.
Yeah,
naps a lot.
Which is, I dig her. They're all eating the ostrich ferns after they prepared them, and then Chinatsu, Kei's younger sister, who's my favorite character, tries one very reluctantly, and she gets it down
because they're bitter. They're an acquired adult taste, I believe they say, or something.
Yes,
right?
Yeah. But she does try it, to her credit, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't think I'm ready for this."
Yeah.
And then this was like, I was just like, "What the heck?" I guess this Akane is just so lazy, but she's like, after Chinatsu tries one, she's like, "Oh my god, like, would you like, as a reward, for trying that, would you like some cake?" Some chocolate cake or something, and she's like, yes, yeah, and then Kei and Makoto are like, yeah, you got cake, and she's like, well, I'm gonna send you to this bakery. I'm not going, but you guys can go. Well, what the heck?
You want some cake? Go get it.
Yeah. But so she sends them on this adventure to go to a cafe that is run by a witch. So they're okay. Well, that sounds cool. We'll do that. Gives them these directions that leads to this like dilapidated building, and they're like, "What?" But then the instructions say you have to, as you would at a shrine, you have to do the proper, bowing and prayer
Mm.
to lift the spell. And so Makoto does that. She's the only one that does it, but then it reveals, oh, there's this nice looking bakery here.
Yeah, it's platform 9 3/4, right?
Yeah,
Essentially.
pretty
Yeah.
much, pretty
Yeah.
much.
All right. I mean, I'm not sure which one came first, but yeah, it's sort of the same concept. Rather than 9 3/4, you don't actually see the thing; you just have to go,
Yeah, you gotta
not
go with
knowing.
it.
Whereas this, you can disillusion it.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway.
So they do that and they go in and yeah, I mean it's cute. Essentially the waitress is a ghost, and so
Mm-hmm.
there's this whole part of like they
A
walk
very
in.
shy ghost.
She's a
As I
very shy
recall.
ghost. Yeah, I wrote cute ghost host,
Yeah,
shy.
yeah. She's kind of great.
Yeah, she's cool. And yeah, she communicates by just writing on little slips of paper. And so when they first walk in, they're like, "There's no one here." And then they see a slip of paper, and it's like, "Oh, have a seat." And they're like, "This is creepy." And then they put it together,
Mm.
and then they order their stuff. But then while she's away, getting their drinks or whatever, Makoto draws out a I don't know, not a pentagram, but some sort of Wiccan symbol, and
Mm.
lays it, at the threshold of where the waitress will come back, and it reveals her, but she doesn't know that they can see her, and so it's this whole like
Yeah.
it's amusing.
She gets more embarrassed when she realizes that.
Yeah,
Essentially, right? Yeah.
and in the end, she comes back with like wearing like a kabuki mask or something like
Mm.
like that, like that's helping, but yeah, I mean that's most of the episode. Herb picking and then a hidden cafe.
Mm.
Um, I like it. It's nice. It's like I'm comparing it a lot to the other two slice of life shows we're watching this season.
Mm.
I think I like it more than those other two. Clearly, Super Cub is up there.
Mm.
But Yakumo, it's just like I guess because it's like a hobby show. But then I'm also just when they're not doing the hobby, I'm just much less
Mm.
interested. And even when they are
It's
doing the
also
hobby, it's
it's
not.
also pretty short.
Yeah, it's shorter episodes. But this one is nice because it really like Super Cub I like too because it has like that soothing nature,
Mm.
slice of life, but it's about it's sort of about Koguma's journey socially,
Mhm. Mhm.
and making more friends, and there's more going on there. Whereas this Flying Witch is like, I mean, there's the
It's
characters have their own dynamics and whatnot, but it's very much like steeped in that like soothing, uh,
mm.
you know, Iyashikei like slice of life to me. Like it feels much more like a respite than
Yeah.
than
It's not there's not a really a character journey. It's sort of about um I don't know, settling into this world like you would snuggle into a sleeping bag or something like that. Like every episode you're just a little more snuggled in, right? You
yeah.
know? Um this no, I'm not going to say anything. This episode has there's this is where it becomes a little bit more like there's sort of a story that continues between episodes,
Okay.
with that cafe thing.
Oh, okay.
It might be a couple of episodes before it comes back. I don't actually remember,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's
Oh.
the second half might have been somewhat boring and uninteresting. It's still cute and funny and snuggly and everything,
Yeah.
but it has future importance.
Okay. Cool. I'll stay tuned for that. Um, it's good to know. I mean, it's not the type of show that's prone to spoilers, so it's not.
Yeah. Well, that's yeah, that's basically what I'm saying is like for the most part this show doesn't really have a story,
Hmm.
but this sort of represents the beginning of a story
Yeah.
that unfolds over
A
the course
recurring.
of a few episodes separated by other episodes I think as well. But
Oh, okay.
there's little bits along the way. It's just sort of a breadcrumb trail from here on with that.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, I up until this point, I like that. Like with Makoto, she's the main character and she's a witch, but it's like you don't even really need the witch stuff. I mean, clearly,
Mm.
they do spells, and her sister's a witch, and it definitely plays into it. But at the
Yeah.
heart of it, so far, it's just been about like her, you know, she's moved to this town, living with extended family, and
Yeah.
they're showing her the sights. They're showing her what they do, the food they like to eat. You know, she's spending time with the parents,
Yeah. She's just
and
sort of being a teenager. And
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of
A
it's
very a very thoughtful and respectful teenager, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's true. But yeah, I guess that's all I got. I gave this a 7. I don't know. I'm just sitting at a 7. And I
Mm,
like it. It might be one of those shows where it's like look back on it more fondly
mm.
than now. I know for you, Yashike is kind of your jam, and
Yeah.
this is like cream of the crop.
I'm
So
not even sure if I recognized at the time that I was watching it, like how much I loved it. It might have been something that like later, like looking
mm,
back on it, I was like, it was so good.
kind of a sleeper.
Yeah. And I mean, I certainly enjoyed it at the time
Oh
as
yeah,
well. Like
as am I.
I
Yeah.
very, very much enjoyed watching it at the time, but I don't know if like I consider it sort of the best of the
Mm,
best, right? Like it is the top of the heap.
nice.
Uh, yeah, and I don't think I recognized that at the time, and it was probably like later after watching it. Like I guess no, I felt it at the time. Like this is probably the best thing I've ever watched.
Mm,
Um, but it wasn't until later that it really like
yeah.
steeped in and like
Well, the test of time is
yeah, and
always
that's
the
what
best.
I mean. I've always said like that's what makes the difference between an 8 and a 9 and a 10,
Mm,
right? Like
yep.
time, yeah,
Yep.
how much it sticks with you and how much, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah,
Agreed.
love, love, love that show.
That sucks. But anyway, no. I'm kidding.
That's fine. I don't even care if you thought it sucked. I wouldn't even really care. I enjoy hearing about it every week because I remember all of this like
Mm,
and it's even not watching it, just hearing you like recount what happened. I remember all those moments and stuff like that, and
mm.
yeah, it's just great being reminded of it. I
Yeah.
guess
Yeah.
yeah,
Episode by episode.
yeah.
So, well, speaking of that, you've been doing a similar thing for me because week after week, keep suggesting a show that you've recently, just already watched. And, but in doing so, you've reminded me of, it's been a while for a lot of these, I'm not a big rewatcher. Um, but I have a lot of shows I like. So, without further ado,
Mm.
this week, I'm gonna have to go with a show that is also slice of life. Continue that trend.
Sounds good. I like slice of life.
And it's a show called And Yet the Town Moves. Sore Demo something something. You probably got it. You got
Yeah.
it down.
Oh yeah.
Because you already watched it.
Soredemo machi
Uh,
no. What is the article there? No, machi no mawateru. Yeah, no,
okay,
it's a
nice.
no there. So soredemo machi no mawateru. And yet the town moves. Yes. So this is about a high school girl who works at a maid cafe that's not really a maid cafe, but wants to be a maid cafe, but isn't really a maid cafe. And then one of her high school friends comes to her maid cafe that's not really a maid cafe, but wants to be a maid cafe, but it's kind of a maid cafe. And
Is it just her that dresses up as a maid, but like,
well, the old lady, I can't remember if in the first episode if the old lady also dressed up as a maid,
mm,
the owner lady.
yeah,
I think she did, and it's sort of the old lady's idea. Like the old lady had this cafe. It wasn't very popular, didn't bring in very many customers, and she thought, "Oh, you know what's popular? Maid cafes. Let's all put on maid
let's
outfits."
try
And it's
that.
it's basically her and the main character who work there and dress up as maids, and yeah, it's very slice of life, very episodic. There's no really continuing themes throughout. It is I mean, it's full length, normal length episodes, but each episode contains two sub episodes. Um, so it's somewhat shorter content,
Mm,
similar to Yakumo,
yeah,
15 minutes. That's all you get,
yes,
right? Or in this case, probably 12-ish minutes because it's two 12s split into 20, or a 24 split into two 12s. Yeah, and our main character she's awkward and funny and cute and clumsy and sort of all the things you want from a main character in a slice of life. And then she's got a friend who's a little more loud and obnoxious and thinks she knows everything. And yeah, she's kind of great in her own way. And then there's like the boy who is infatuated with our main character. But this other girl who is the friend of the main character is infatuated with the boy. And so they've
Okay.
got kind of this love triangle thing going on as well, although it's not really explored in depth or anything.
Hmm.
Like I say, it's very episodic, so it doesn't continue that very much, but
Yeah.
it comes up as sort of a joke every once in a while, I guess.
Yeah.
And then there's the old lady who owns the cafe that I mentioned before. Um, I mean, she's your standard old lady character. Like she doesn't she doesn't really care about anything. She's like, go to the store, get me some cigarettes, that sort of thing. Um, she's funny at times, and then there's the teacher. He came up a few times. There's a teacher that essentially he finds out these girls are working after school, but the school forbids it unless they have written permission or something from the school
Oh.
to do after school work. And he sort of finds out they're working at this cafe and follows them there, and is sort of a pain. And then they use their super maid skills to disarm him basically by being cute, I guess, is the idea. Although it doesn't really work out that well. It's mostly that he's just distracted by how stupid their attempts to distract him are, which is cute in its own way.
So it
Um,
works, but not as intended.
Yeah. So I sort of took notes on this whole series, but at the end of it, I looked back and really all I had written was like the episode titles or the titles of the sub episodes within each episode. And all of the titles pretty well explained like what was going to happen in that episode, honestly.
Yeah.
So I felt like I didn't need to write anything, but I didn't bother to print that out because I mean you can just look that up online if you want to know.
Or just watch it.
Literally the only thing that I wrote about this is cute, wacky, episodic slice of life comedy, which encapsulates it pretty well.
I think
And
so.
yeah, and I watched episodes 1 through 12.
I think that's all
and,
there is.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
so. Yeah, the manga much larger apparently because at the beginning of each episode or at the beginning of each sub episode, they say the name of the episode and they say which chapters of the manga it was adapted from. And it starts off like 1, 2, 3, 4, like normal, and then it jumps to like 114, and then back to 72, and then 32, and then 54, and then I don't
Oh,
remember
wow.
the numbers. I'm just saying numbers,
Yeah, it's just all over the place.
but I believe at some point there was something that was over 100, so like over 100 chapters of this,
Wow.
and only 12 times 2. I mean, 12 episodes, each being 2-ish each being, you know what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So each episode of each of the 12 episodes has at least 2 chapters that have been adapted into that. Some a little bit more. So yeah, there's only 24 chapters have been adapted essentially
Wow.
out of 100 and something. So yeah, and actually this show I had some trouble finding it online at first. It's on High Dive, which I don't have a subscription to.
Oh, yeah.
Or I didn't have a subscription to, I guess I should say. So I found that the manga is on Crunchyroll, and I have a Crunchyroll subscription. So I actually started reading the manga first, and then I decided to go ahead and get the High Dive.
Oh, you
and,
did?
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
and start watching it from there. So yeah. So then I watched the I think I only read like maybe 3 or 4 chapters of the manga first, which were all adapted in the first
Oh, okay.
2 episodes. So everything that I had read, I also watched. And then there was, like I say, it jumped around a whole bunch and stuff. But yeah, it was good. It was funny. It was cute. Yeah, overall, I'd probably, I don't know, 7-ish. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the slice of life comedy is seems very
Yeah,
right
it's
on the
not.
money.
It's not like the annoying cute girls doing cute things, because they're cute characters, but I don't know that they're drawn that cute, really. I don't
Yeah, they
think
seem
they're.
almost like more like lifelike than like they're just cute. Like
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They don't have that standard anime cuteness that you
Mm,
get in a lot of shows where.
yeah.
But they're cute in their actions. Their actions are cute and make
Mm,
them cute and stuff like
yeah.
that. Yeah. I mean, mainly our main girl. The other ones
Mm.
are kind of cute, but like our main girl, whose name I don't know. Did I print that out? Probably not.
Yeah, I can't remember
Um,
her name. Um, I curious what you thought of the opening theme because it's one of my favorite songs just in general. Maya
oh shit,
Sakamoto.
I did print it out.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Hotori Arashiyama. That's our main.
Hitori
Arashiyama?
Arashiyama.
Yeah.
It's not ringing a bell, but it's
Hotori?
been a while.
Mm,
Hotori. That sounds more
mm.
like something I.
Uki Futaba. Anyway, yeah. There's a whole bunch of names there. They're all Japanese names. What do you know? The opening. I don't know that I specifically recall it.
It's stuck
Actually.
in my head right now.
Oh yeah, how's it go?
Um, it's called Downtown. It's by
Oh, okay, I remember now.
Maya Sakamoto,
I
who I
do.
love.
Yeah, as soon as you said downtown, I was like, oh yes, I do remember that one.
Uki uki. It's in my head, man.
Just you like flossing your headphones and saying uki uki.
Meme it.
Yeah, I do remember as soon as you said downtown, I remembered noticing the song. I still can't I don't think I could sing it for you. I don't think I could recall lyrics or anything like that. But I do. I remember the opening. I remember the visuals of the opening a little bit more now.
Yeah.
Just based on that as well. So, yeah, I don't know. Not like super standout, I guess, to me, but like felt like an anime opening of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you might have to check out the full version because it's awesome.
Okay.
But-
I might do that.
It's on Spotify.
All right. Well, luckily, I have a Spotify subscription as well, huh? But
Oh, cool.
that does it, right?
Yeah.
Wow, my pages are all empty now. I have no more pages of notes.
We did it all. We
Huh.
we ran the gamut.
All right. Well, I got to take a piss. You want to wrap this up?
Thanks for tuning in to Unlike Anime. We are on all the social media websites you can imagine, except not those obscure ones. And yeah, we're on Patreon. We got YouTube. We appreciate your comments. We appreciate encouragement, constructive criticism, and money. So if you want to give any of those things, please do. If you want to just listen, that sounds cool to me. Yeah, Unlike Anime. It's UMLIKEANIME. And I'm George, signing off. And there's Tony.
Hi, I took a piss. I'm back now. Bye.